All right, what is happening, everybody? Ooh, we got a little feedback. We'll get it figured out. Oh man, everybody's popping in. I think this is going to be an exciting one. I think this is probably going to be like another one of those reoccurring Booma community streamers, but this is number 52. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. This is Dreams, so we'll get into all kinds of stuff, but this is August 16th, 2026. Having trouble with, I think, on the Substack side, so I'll work on that as we go around. Everybody can say hi. I won't call on you. I'll just go to Heather first, and then Heather kind of conduct things, if you will, while I figure out the Substack thing.
Oh, joy. Hi, everybody.
You are the star of the show, the one that was in the premiere promo, the music video, if you will. Very exciting.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about that. Me being the star.
Hey, you said it was all right. I asked for permission. Don't you
I know. It's okay. It is kind of creepy though, because it's the likeness of not just myself, but my pet and stuff. That was kind of freaky. I gotta tell you, but it's really good, and it goes in line with kind of what we're talking about.
And that was just from one picture. You know what I mean? Like it just used one picture and then like nailed your likeness pretty well. All right, let me try the Substack thing. Go ahead, keep talking.
Well, the picture, though, that you took was not of me in my bedroom. It was in my bed. So that was kind of trippy. But, yeah, I mean, it's the infiltration of dreams and how they are. I mean, it's in market share. They can advertise in our dreams. They can project things and all kinds of stuff. So how do we know what's coming from our subconscious, if you will, if that's where the dreams come from, or what's coming from them, planting things in? How come sometimes we wake up and I can't remember it, but I'm left with the feeling of whatever was happening, but I just can't remember. I don't know. It's kind of trippy. And a lot of us have similar kind of dreams, in that kind of way, or reoccurring nightmares. Is that taken from our fears?
That's some of the stuff that we're going to kind of talk about. I was affected a lot more when I was younger, but I think a lot of people will have certain experiences where they had reoccurring dreams or certain kinds of dreams that would keep coming up that were some of them very disturbing. We'll keep going around the room. I didn't say I was going to call on people, but I think Substack is live. I just wanted to say sorry about that. For some reason, there was a technical difficulty, but it looks like Substack is on. You didn't really miss anything. But we were talking to Heather because she was kind of like the star of the premiere, if you will. And I think I'm going to play that at some point here once we go around the room a little bit, and then we'll get started. I'm really excited to hear from some of the people here on the panel, and I think we have a couple more that might be coming in as we go. But go ahead, Moses. How you doing, brother?
How you guys doing? Happy to be here.
Hey, Moses.
Yeah, excited to talk about the dreams. I have so many. I couldn't wait for this. I'm so excited. I've had dreams I couldn't explain, dreams where I was actually seeing reality, so not really dreaming, as we know. So I'm excited to talk about it, share, get some different perspectives, and as always, learn.
Absolutely, man. No, there's going to be some really cool talk in this. Like I said, I think we're going to have another Bloodlines, and right now, and I saw Liz is in the house. Wonder Woman is here. If you don't know what that's all about, there was some shorts that she put over on her YouTube where she was Wonder Woman at one of those events that she goes to. And welcome, Liz. Welcome, Miss Cajones. Welcome, D Menace, Misty Blue. Everybody that's in the house. A lot of you joined. I think everybody's kind of excited. What's up, Joanne? Slamtastic in the house. And this is going to be a big topic. Moses hit it on the head, where it's hearing from a bunch of different people, because I think all of us have certain experiences with dreams, whether it's the reoccurring ones or like the video that I'm going to play that features Heather. It kind of like gets into some of the creepier stuff too, the technologies and the stuff that we hear about from like Sabrina Wallace. We're hoping that on the next Bloodlines that Sabrina and Liz, you'll both be on that, Billy Hart. But for the dream ones, when it gets into some of the neural nudging, there was talk. I think it was, I don't want to name the company if I'm not, I might have to pull it up. One of the companies, I think it was a beer company, was talking about the influencing and advertising of stuff in dreams. Well, the idea is they've been doing that for a long time. They do it subconsciously in film. They do it, commercials have certain jingles that hit certain dopamine and certain serotonin and all that kind of stuff in the brain. And the subliminal messages and all kinds of stuff that we get through the algorithms that are now on all of our devices and whatnot. So there's plenty to talk about. But let's go ahead. How you doing, Mac?
I'm good. Crazy dreams almost every night. I'm in a different dimension, space, whatever you guys want to call it, flat, round. It's crazy. I'm being chased. I'm always being chased. I'm always having crazy dreams, and just trying to figure out what that's all about. So interested to see what other people's experiences are.
Right. And a lot of people have these dreams. Liz is saying, I have a freaky dream, but not sure y'all want to hear it. Yeah. No, at some point, we might have to hear it. Moses was talking about all of his naked dreams. It was really, really weird behind the stage. I'm just joking, Moses, and I'm just joking, everybody. I was teasing him backstage because I was telling him, like, this is legit. I'm being honest. I have those dreams where you're like at school and all of a sudden you're like naked and you're trying to like cover yourself and hide. And you're like, how the heck did I end up naked at school? Like those guys where you're like exposed or like embarrassing things and stuff like that. I even to this day, and I haven't had them for a little while, but up to more recently, I don't even think about some of these people from my past. But I guess from your childhood, I have dreams going back to high school and little school. And I'm like, I don't even talk to these people anymore. I don't think about them like in my day. Like why am I having dreams that go all the way back there? Which a lot of those weren't all that fun. So it kind of drives me nuts. And I have to relive some of that stuff in my dreams. But I guess that's maybe some of the nudging that's happening to me. I don't know. Mark, let's go to you. I'm really excited. We're going to get to hear a lot from Mark. Mark's talking a little bit about it on some of the other streamers. But go ahead, sir. I'm excited to hear from you a little bit later on.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I do have a lot to share. I've had many experiences starting from at least the age of 5. There are many different types of dreams, so I'm going to share a lot about the different types I've experienced. I will give you some examples of things I've experienced, and Moses was actually interested in some advice on enhancing the ability to dream and remember dreams, so I have some tips for that as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm excited to hear some of your tips. And then you just shared, so I was talking about this, and this is like legit stuff. This is being reported on. They're influencing, and some of that music video that I made before this featuring Heather, it was like some of it was talking about, waking up before the ad break. But this is Coors Light is creating the first big game ad that runs in your dreams. And this is back in 2021. They were talking about influencing people's dreams with commercials, and they've been talking about it. And we pretty much know on this channel, for the most part, that you talk about it in the public, it's already been going on. So they always unveil stuff to the public after they've already been utilizing it. So that was Coors. It's crazy. The world that we live in is not anything that we ever thought it was growing up, especially. Let's go over to Diane. Welcome back, Diane. Excited to have you here. How you doing?
Great. I'm doing great. Happy to be back. This is a topic I'm definitely interested in and have had some experiences to share with everyone. And some interesting things that I'm, kind of piecing together and doing some research on to see if others have reported the same. So, yeah.
Yeah, when I can't remember what panel it was, but one of these streamers, we had a guy on, Mike H. He was talking about, I think it was the Benadryl man, Benadryl hat man, I think is what they actually called it. Now, this is something that mass people had experienced in their dreams. Some of them were attributed to of taking a Benadryl, but there was also Slender Man we talked about. And that was kind of one that kind of relates a little bit to the horrific dreams that I used to have that were recurring when I was younger. Not so much when I got a little bit older, out of college, kind of thing. But these are things that a lot of people are reporting online and whatever forums or wherever they're talking about this stuff. Now, some of that could also be influenced by bots or stuff that was going on back then to put this into the consciousness of people so that more people thought about this and had these dreams. I don't freaking know. It can work both ways, I think, where they're influencing it and causing it, and then online and in social forums helping mass push it even to a higher level to see what happens with this like human experiment that's going on. So wanted to talk about. All right, the Rice of Pat. How are you doing, Patrice?
That's a new one. I like it, Booma. It's a Booma original. I am doing great, considering how nuts everything else is. It's funny that you just said that, because it's all the W band, right? I mean, it's all connected, you know. I mean, and it's becoming more and more evident. And like you said, when people are connected like we are here, I went and got my little book that if I have really profound dreams, I write them down. And the very last entry, Booma, was, okay, watching the Booma Streama number 29. This is from February. Recording where the gut-brain connection is being mentioned as I was remembering to write this down. And that was the night I woke up in the middle of the night. And I know we're going to cover things, but anyway, it is just so connected. But I woke up with this indigestive type pain that I've never had before. And it was so bad I had to get up, you know. I drank some little baking soda, whatever, but it was so intense. I almost thought I was having a heart attack. And but I had been watching that Streama where we had talked about the brain and gut connection. And then I wake up in the middle of the night with that. I mean, it just kind of is all kind of a little mind blowing.
It's freaky, right? It can set the stage for your whole day. Sometimes it can be a positive thing because it was a fun dream, but a lot of times it's something where it's just like, I can't shake it. What, like you going into your day and you're like, what the heck was that?
How is this happening? Yeah.
Right.
And we know how, but we're all, I'm sure, still trying to wrap our brains around what's happening with us. And it's becoming more and more evident every day.
Right. And a lot of people will have dreams where they wake up and they have marks that they can actually take pictures of, that they experience in the dream, and then wake up and it happened to manifest or be a part of their reality. Like it was like whatever was going on in the dream, they wake up and they legit had that thing going on, or they're sleeping next to a partner and the partner can verify that something happened to them while they were sleeping, and there's physical marks. It's crazy, some of the stuff that's happening. What's up, April? What's up, Aim? Good to see you, Chelsea. But yes, these are some of the ones. What's up, Coley? Man, so good to see you all here. These are some of the things I'm looking forward to this panel discussing. And then last but not least, as far as who's on the panel right now, what's up, Lionessroars?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be back. And I'm looking forward to this one. Have some weird, almost, what do they call those? The vivid dreams where you feel like you are awake and you can control it.
I think that's lucid dreaming. Is that lucid dreaming?
Yeah, lucid dreaming. You're right.
Yeah.
That's what happened. You get hit by these weapons. Yeah, so just repetitive things a lot. Has anybody ever, I don't know if it happens to men or women, but, you know, I posted something the other day, and I forget if it was in Heather's chat, about I saw online that women are being raped by this technology, right? So like they're having orgasms, I guess, and I guess men have similar things, and this is sick technology that they're making money on. It's just something to discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, yep. In every form. There's the sexual ones, the ones where they're I mean, some people call it like astral rape. There's been accounts of that kind of stuff. So we'll see what all we get into in that area. But without further ado, I do for the people that didn't get to see the video, and it's not necessarily what is going to be talked all in this one, because like I said at the beginning, I think we're going to have multiples of these dream community streamers. But I want to play that music video, and then it's only 2 minutes, and then we'll get into more discussions here. And then I'm going to start off with Mark, because I'm really interested in hearing some of the stuff from Mark. He's been sharing some links, so he'll direct me on what I'm going to share there. But I'm going to pull this up for anybody that didn't watch it or anybody that did, and we'll go ahead and check it out again. The music video that kind of was to set the stage for this series. Let's check it out.
There's a door inside me I forgot how to open, and somebody else has the key. Up above the sleeping world, there's a floor that never sleeps. Half of them are people, half of them are not. They build the room, they write the script, they pick the face you trust. And somewhere in the third act, they sell you something. Who's running the night shift? Whose voice is that in my head? I was safe behind my eyelids, now I'm just a screen they rent instead. Wake up before the ad break. I wrote this room before you did. I remember where I left the key. Get off my floor, I'm awake in here.
Kind of wild, right? So I had both like the cold and the light side of things, I guess, in there. But it's, you know, when you hear Sabrina talk about these jobs and some people that are kind of aware of these things, you got people that are above clearances that most of the world doesn't even know about. And they are monitoring us all over the place. That's part of what the data centers is, but that's been going on for a long time, and possibly nearly nudging us and then monitoring us. And it's freaking like a human experiment and all kinds of stuff going on. Talking there about putting ads in our dreams, manipulating them. Some of them are human, some of them are not. It's kind of a wild thing to discuss. So we're going to get into all of that. But there's also, when we've discussed or heard some people talk about some of this, like Mark, that I'm going to introduce here and let him share whatever he'd like to share this round. The abilities that we do have, the power that we do have, it's not all like bleak, you know, like we have certain powers, or some of us have certain gifts. I think Mark has a gift, and I want him to be able to share that. And so there's good things too, taking back the powers that we do have as individuals and our sovereignty and things given to us by God, or however you want to look at it. So Mark, let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff that you want to discuss, and let me know what links, if there's ones that you want me to actually pull up while you're talking. Go for it, sir.
All right. I think the first thing I should probably lead with is the very first experience I ever remember having, because some of the things that I'm going to say after that are probably not necessarily all that pleasant. Some are, but probably not as many as people would hope. So to just start off with the very first experience I had. When I was 5 years old, I learned I could dream the future. The night before I was to go to school, I dreamt of myself being in a particular place in the schoolyard at recess, and a child came up and pantsed me, pulled my pants down. Anyway, I woke up from the dream. I didn't really think about it. School always made me really nervous, so, you know, when I actually went to school, I was just focused on, you know, going about my day. I wasn't focused on the dream at all. And sure enough, at recess, I actually found myself in the exact same place that I was supposed to be in the dream. However, that kid, he never showed up. I don't know what happened, but what that taught me is two things. Number one, I can dream the future. Number two, it's not set in stone. Even after you've seen it, there is the opportunity to change it. And you won't always know whether or not you have. I've had other experiences as well, where based on what you see in the dream, you react. And at that point, the thing that you dreamt doesn't happen. Did you actually dream the future? Did you actually make a change? These are all questions that I've had for a very long time. And it does actually appear that, number one, everything you see is not bound to happen. And number two, either you or somebody else can make a change between the time you see something and the time that it's supposed to happen. A change can occur. Now, there's a lot of different types of dreams. The one that seems to be mentioned the most are metaphorical dreams, which honestly I can't really speak a lot to because most of my dreams seem to be very, very literal. The one thing I will say about metaphorical dreams is you can go out and you can buy all of the books on dream interpretation that you want. But I think at best, that's just an idea that you can go by. I think that is a very inaccurate method for somebody to try and determine what their metaphorical dreams mean. The issue with it is the fact that nobody else actually knows you. They don't know your experiences. They don't know how you act and react to things. And as a result of that, they might be able to give you a generic scenario as to what a symbol might be interpreted as inside of a dream. However, for instance, for some people, they might have an aversion to frogs. Me, I don't have that aversion, right? So what that means is if I see a frog in a dream, that would probably have a much different meaning for me than it does for the other individual that has a fear of such a thing. The emotions and everything behind that are different. And when it comes to dreaming, you want to navigate not necessarily by what's happening in front of you. That's just one piece. And this goes for real life too. You don't want to navigate just by what you see in front of you. You want to navigate by feel. And that comes from many pieces of information that you get from the reality around you. And especially when you're dreaming, your empathy will be heightened. You will be able to feel things and navigate by that more than anything else would be my advice there, because there are things that you can encounter while you're there. And they will try to trick you. They will try to trick you. I've had multiple instances. One came to me looking like an elderly woman, and another one came to me looking like a teenage child dressed in a baseball uniform, like he was going to a baseball game to watch, people play. I recognized right away they weren't who they appeared to be, and that was entirely due to feel. So navigate by feel if you can.
Is that connecting to like your heart when you say feel? Because they are manipulating our senses to a degree where sometimes you can't trust how you feel sometimes.
Yeah, and so that's where it just comes in, like discernment. The word discernment is a very good one to use. And really, to me, what that means is you're taking everything into consideration. It's not just how you feel. It's just not what you're seeing in front of you. It's just any of your senses that you have at your disposal. You're putting everything together as one whole thing. And then you're making a decision based on that. I mean, nobody's perfect, shit happens, but, you just, and when you're in a dream, you're not always as lucid as you would like to be. There are tricks that, people have to try and get you lucid to the point where you're in a dream. And one of the tricks is actually just to ask yourself all day in your waking life whether or not you're in a dream. Because what ends up happening is you ask that question enough when you're awake, you start to, when you do too much of the same thing in waking life and you end up doing it when you go to sleep. Hillbilly Heart said she still thinks that she's, filing warrants and stuff for people. Right. I remember actually when Game Boy originally came out, I played so much Tetris that I was literally playing it in my sleep. Right. So the bottom line is if you can continue to ask yourself, and you're always checking reality throughout the day to make sure that reality is reality, then you will start to do that when you go to sleep at night. And eventually what'll happen is you will find out that, yeah, you're in a dream and now you're totally lucid and you can go wherever you want and you can do whatever you want. It's very uplifting to know that that is something that we are all capable of.
I was gonna say, do you have a practice? Do you have like something that you, when you go into your sleep, I guess, that you do to try to have that lucidness and that ability to influence or to protect or whatever you want to say going into your dream state?
Yeah, the truth of the matter is I have been kind of lazy and depending on natural gift as opposed to training myself. I need to do more of that. Life's just been kind of overwhelming and chaotic for me.
Right.
But there is a practice that you can do. And there are also things that you need to watch out for while you are doing the practice to let you know that you're on the right track. So basically you lay down and you relax your body as much as you can. And then once you've done that, you're going to do it again. But what you're going to do is you're going to do individual body parts. So you'll start with even at your toes, and then you'll do the rest of your feet. And then you'll do like your calves and your knees and your thighs, and you'll work your way up. And you may get to the top and feel nothing. So you probably would want to do it again. And what you're going to do is you're going to repeat that until you start to feel a vibration in your body. And once you feel that vibration in your body, it's to the point where you can either, once you slip into a dream state, you can either be in a lucid dream or you can actually pop out of your body and do full-blown astral travel. So yeah, you're waiting for that vibrating feeling. And at that point, as long as you're super relaxed, you tend to end up slipping into some sort of an altered state. And at that point, you know, you can go into a dream and be totally lucid. And at that point, you can do anything you want. So I haven't done it a lot, but the one time that I successfully done it right after I started trying to do it, you try to make a decision to do something that you've never done before, even in a dream. So I've done so many different things in dreams and even in waking life. One thing I had never done was walked through a wall. So when I finally got to lucid dreaming, I finally did that. It was a very interesting experience. But yeah, and when it comes to the astral projection part, I think you can actually continue to follow those vibrations. And at a certain point, you will get a dropping sensation. You'll feel like you just dropped through your bed. And most people, when they feel that, it actually wakes you up because it is very jarring. But if you can still stay relaxed when that happens, then I believe that is when you can perform astral travel. So you can actually go to real places and, you know, experience real things that, you know, you can go to places that you'd never even be able to get to in the real world by any other means. So it's absolutely fantastic.
Is that what you think is happening? Because I think every single person experiences it where you maybe didn't even realize you fell asleep, but all of a sudden you're jolted awake. You're like, oh my gosh, what was that? And then it becomes a normal thing. So then as a kid, you start experiencing, you're like freaked out, and then it becomes a little more normal to happen. But it always freaks you out when you feel like you're falling, and then you wake up in a panic a little bit. Is that what you think's happening? Like you're starting to get to that astral, you're leaving the body kind of a thing, but then you fall back into it and wake up?
Yeah, I honestly believe that sleep is actually closer to our natural whole state. You know, when people talk about, you know, going to heaven or leaving this body and going on to whatever comes next, I believe that when we go into a state that allows us to dream, that state of being is much, much closer to our state of wholeness than when we're actually here. So I believe that there are actually some entities out there that kind of see this life as almost the opposite of life in a way, because it's further away from a state of wholeness than we are meant to experience.
Right. And there's a lot of us that do what they call, I guess, daydreaming. where like, you know, like especially when you're a kid and you're stuck in class in the indoctrination school, as it was. Not that we thought of it necessarily like that when we were a kid, but you did think about it like, this is boring, this sucks, or I don't want to be here, and you're there all the time. But you're like going into a space in your head, or you're experiencing something, you're dreaming about something, you're visualizing what you'd rather be doing, or you're dreaming about some fantasy that you'd like to be doing other than being stuck there. There's something about being awake where and versus the dream where it's like you're stuck in this corporeal body and stuck in death and taxes, as they say, the promises that are made. It will be while we're in this corporeal body. So there is something to be said about that. I think there is something to it. And anybody else can jump in at any point and ask Mark stuff or talk about something similar that you've had, whatever you want to do. I'm just really excited to hear some of this stuff because when you talk about having dreams that come true or that becoming a regular thing, that becomes something I've heard plenty of times, not regularly in regular life, but I've heard people talk about it and I'm fascinated with, because I do think that there's some kind of ability there. And Sabrina talks about that, and some other people that been on these panels talk about being able to influence things, or you meet somebody in a dream and then you meet them in real life. It's things that happen where it's like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, I came up with my own theory a few years ago, and let me know what you think. But I just have this strong feeling that, you know, when you have a deja vu, and I haven't had deja vu in a long time. I used to have it more when I was younger, but you know that a deja vu is just like it's undeniable that you feel like you've been there before. And I kind of came to the conclusion that possibility that it's that you've dreamt it. Maybe you've dreamt it, or it has something to do with alternate dimensions.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, some of that stuff, maybe from what I came from, as far as like being influenced by some people that had some really out there stuff, and I'm not saying all of it was wrong. Some of it gets a little tough to discern, like, you know, like the idea that there's multiple timelines, or that you can timeline jump, or there's multiple dimensions. Now, I believe that there's something to that. You know, we're in a 3D existence, and then we can only see when we are awake and using these things we call eyes, unless you're blind and have issues with that. You're only seeing a very small fraction of reality, and you're only seeing that with light. In dreams, it's a different thing. You're seeing abstract. You're experiencing, like I've experienced, not that I can control it all the time, but I've experienced flying. I have experienced things where like I step off. I used to have this, you know, you have the one where you fall and whatnot, but I've had this one where like, it was almost like Wile E. Coyote cartoon where like I stepped off a cliff and stared down. I was like, oh, dang. And then I just stepped back. Like, whoa, that was crazy. Or I had one where I was like an Aborigine or an Aboriginal person, and like I had like a steak or whatever. And like it was me and a couple guys, and we were being bum rushed by like a whole group. And I was like literally stabbing people. And then I woke up. I'm like, what the heck was that? It's not like I have any freaking relation to like knowing what that's all about. And then I had a dream, and I'll pass it on. But I had a dream, and I can't remember what was going on in the dream. I'll just never forget the sensation. I got shot in the face with a shotgun, and it felt like cold mud hitting my face, and then I died. But I woke up from that dream, and I was like, that's exactly what it fucking feels like. Because it's like a sensation that's super hot, but it's so hot it's cold, and it's like a caking, and then you like, I don't know, then you die, I guess. But it's just some of the crazy things that you can experience in dreams. Not all of them very pleasant, but it is certainly something you're not going to just experience in reality, you know, all the time.
And the question then is, was it you experiencing something potentially from your future? Was it a past life where you may be seeing through the eyes of another individual? I've done all of those things. So when somebody asks, you know, can you experience or can you do this, or this in a dream? The answer is always yes.
Yeah, are we tapping into other people's lives? Are we tapping into pasts? Like, I don't want to turn this into like video games, but that's a little bit like kind of related to some of this stuff where it was like Assassin's Creed, where you like go through the Animus, I think is what it's called, and you go back in time and you're like experiencing history as a different character kind of a thing, as an assassin. And so some of these things have been depicted, and it's also in movies. Like the video that I played there was parts of it that reminded me of the movie Inception. If anybody's watched that, there's a bunch of characters in it, but Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, was the main one, where everything's shifting and there's like dreams within a dream. Like you can have a dream where you're dreaming. Like it's the dream state is it really is multiple dimensions of some sort. Whatever it means, I don't know. But you guys have experienced that stuff too, right? Moses, what are you wearing now? You're straight up like in winter clothing.
Dude, I don't know what they did with the AC. It's freezing. Like it's completely freezing. And I feel like it's too early for the blanket. So I just want to go to
Oh, okay. I was like, that's why I said jacket, because I was like, oh, he's stepping up to a jacket. Because I remember
Then
you
we're going to see the hats and the gloves. Hats and gloves and scarf.
Right.
Because I remember, I know you're in a cold room, Moses, because you've talked about that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's in the coldest room in his house too, and he's got some rocking AC because a lot of people are burning up these days, and so it's good on you. But he had the blanket out earlier before we went on. I was like, you got that blanket? I was like, man, you're gonna have to start selling those blankets. Those blankets look so comfy. And then we got Cass, who might show up. I don't know what's going on with that, but if Cass shows up, he was rocking the blanket. But then I just got sidetracked. I know we'll get back into it. Assassin's Creed, all the stuff we're talking about, dreams within dreams, Inception, all kinds of stuff. And then people can talk about it. But I saw you wearing a dang winter's coat, and I'm like, what is going on with Moses? Maybe you're not awake fully.
And it's never
super
too
hot, but
early.
he's experiencing winter.
Never too early for the blanket.
Never
Just
too
never.
early.
Never too early.
Oh,
but yeah, to just add to what Mark was saying. So yeah, I've had dreams. Like I dreamed. I guess you can call it deja vu. So I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll tell you about the dreams that I dreamed that didn't happen, and hopefully they don't happen because something bad was happening during the dream. So it was probably about 14 or 15. And I have a sweet tooth. I love candy. Well, I used to love candy. And I tell my mom, I'm like, hey, like I want to see a candy. And like she gave me candy. And then until like the third day, she was like, no, like you've had enough. And, I'm just a kid. I'm like, no, I want candy. Right. So I had a very strong desire to be locked inside a grocery store and just eat all the candy. So I ended up having a dream where I was locked in a grocery store, and there was just candy everywhere. So fast forward, right? I go to college and I get a job at CVS, right? And I'm a manager and everything. And I don't know if it was Halloween or Christmas. Actually, it was Halloween because I was home during Christmas time. So it was Halloween, and I had to put up a bunch of candy. And I was alone. I remember I was supposed to have somebody with me, but I was alone. And I wasn't going to call my manager and be like, hey, like, I can't put all this up. I'm alone, So I was like, screw it. I just do it by myself. And I just remember it was like midnight. And I had like bins and bins of candy I had to stack. And I remember that dream that I had when I was a kid. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. I don't want all this candy anymore. I hate it. Right. So that's an example of a dream that I've had. But I've also had a dream where literally in this neighborhood, I think I had that dream like 4 years ago or something. Like I went to my neighbor's house and I got shot in his house. I got shot. And then like 5 to 10 seconds happen. And I just get up and I run back to my house. So hopefully, I hope that's never going to happen. Right. And I've also had another dream where I joined the military. So I also hope that doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, right. That's a nightmare, right? At this stage, they're just gonna send you to die, man.
So yeah. So what's the correlation with dreams happening and then dreams not happening? Because I've seen both aspects of both sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had dreams about being shot before too. Can you guys hear me okay? How's my audio?
It's a little muffled, but I can hear you. It's just strange how yours is like.
I think I'm trying to use a different mic than my laptop. But yeah, I could try to switch it in a minute, but I don't want to cause any distortion or background or anything. Anyway, yeah, that's I had like recurring dreams about trying to run and someone was chasing me, and it was like my legs wouldn't move. Like I was running in slow motion and I was frustrated that I couldn't go faster and getting shot. And also around that same time, I was having a lot of dreams about tornadoes actually hitting the house and, you know, grabbing the kids and running to the basement. And I don't live in a tornado alley, right? It was chaotic, but I was going through my divorce at that time. So I don't know if what was happening, it was stressful, and that was creating these things. Right. But as we get a little bit further along, because I really want to get back to what Mark has to show. But then there's trying to understand, did I dream that or was that real? Almost like a paranormal thing. So yeah, that experience just happened a couple of weeks ago for me. And I'm also, you know, kind of afraid to tell people about it because they look at you like you have three heads anyway about a lot of the things that they just aren't awake to. But yeah, that just happened recently, like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And I don't know if that was real or a dream, but I can describe it. I don't know if it's now or you want to come back to me later on this one.
If you want to just rock and roll, I mean, like, it's like, did you feel like your life was like a twister or like so chaotic that it was like a natural disaster happening in your mind, kind of a thing, and then it was like manifested out? You think
that was no? I mean, I would wake up from the tornado and the getting shot and not being able to run. Like I knew those were dreams. Right. I knew I had a lot of stress in my life at that time, and I knew that those were dreams. But then just 2 weeks ago, I could hear something and I felt pressure on my body. And I thought it was my dog because my dog sleeps in my bed and she's a cuddler. Right. And I thought she was on me, but she was going, I heard this sound multiple times. And I'm like, yeah, are you trying to wake me up? Go lay down. And then I felt it move over to my other side. And my dog is usually sleeping on my left. And then the blankets went up. And I got freaked out. I had a little bit of paralysis, right? I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. And I was struggling to get my voice. And then I just cried out to Jesus. And it stopped instantly.
Yeah.
So did I dream that? Or was that real? Because my dog was knocked out next to me the whole time on the other side. She wasn't on the floor. So I don't know. That's strange. And then I did mention it to one of my lady friends in the neighborhood. And she's like, oh my God, it's so funny you should say that. Because she's been seeing ghosts in her apartment. She lives building next door to me. And then there was a third couple that said the same thing. So I live in a part of Virginia where we have the battlefields.
Right.
Battlegrounds right here. So I don't know. It's strange, but I feel like that was not a dream. It was a paranormal. But when you try to tell people about it, they're like, "Oh, you were just dreaming." Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you tapped on a lot of things. I think everybody's had. I mean, I'd be shocked if people haven't had dreams where they're being chased. I don't believe Moses hasn't had the naked dreams because I think we all have had naked dreams. But anyways, but you tapped into people being chased, being stuck. Sleep paralysis. If you haven't had that, then I hope you never have it. It's scary as you can freaking be. Yes, that's the question, right? Like, did you tap into like another timeline of something happening, something that could have happened and you didn't experience it? Is it something that's being put into your brain to cause more stress when in your waking life? I was talking to Mark a little bit about this. Like, is it demonic stuff? Because you were talking about crying out to Jesus. That's worked for me too. That's worked for some other people I've heard talk about these things. And I know not everybody here has that faith. So whatever it is that, you know, brings you peace or whatever, it's brought people out of these darknesses. Some of that stuff is really hard to figure out. And then I was talking to Mark about whether or not it was demonic or whether it was military industrial complex stuff and it's a technology. And I think a lot of it, like he said, I think he's right. He said it goes hand in hand. Right. And then you think about the way that they create some of this technology, and some of it gets into areas that we can have discussions about, but they put sigils in it. They put demonic symbolism in it. They do seances. We've heard it through the music industry where they have like freaking witches come in and do seances over the master track before it's printed and mass sent out. Back masking, various things that they do with reverse speech. I had Dean on, Dean of Sound for Sound, that unfortunately can't be here for a while. We'll see what happens with that whole thing. But he's pointed out where they do a lot of reverse speech for satanic purposes. You can hear politicians speak it and stuff like that. But then the same thing happens like in dreams, where it's like you don't really fully understand it. Sometimes it's abstract. Sometimes I think it's subconscious. Sometimes I think it's something that just doesn't make sense to us because we don't know how to interpret it. I don't know, but all these are on the table. But before we get back to Mark, I want to welcome to the panel, Hillbilly Heart, Wonder Woman is here. What's up, Liz?
I had a big day. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, first time I've used this little ear thing. I just have two things I wanted to share really quickly because I'm still on steroids and antibiotics and not feeling the greatest. When I was little, when I was 10 months old, my mother's father passed away. And he was a big-time musician and the love of my granny's life. My granny never remarried. She took all the pictures down out of the house except for her wedding picture. I never saw a picture of the man other than the wedding picture. All his clothes were kept in closets, but we were not allowed to look at them. So I knew nothing about this man. But he played the fiddle. And so when I guess about a teenager, 12, 13, I played mandolin and, fiddled around on the guitar, and I have a musical family. My mom said, well, would you like to take fiddle lessons on your papa's fiddle? And I said, sure, absolutely. So every Saturday, I devoted every Saturday to driving to another county to take lessons under a Mr. Benny Williams, who is a really well-known musician. And it came really natural to me. But from the moment I started taking these fiddle lessons, I started having very vivid dreams about a young man with heinously curly hair that could not be tamed. And he was always covered in grease, always had his breeches cuffed up with like those old penny loafer looking shoes on, and looked like he came out of like The Outsiders, like Pony Boy and stuff like that, but older. But he was always very sweet in my dreams, always very nice. And sometimes he would be like, your tempo's too fast on that song, you need to slow down. And I would be like, who the heck are you? Because that's random. And about the third or fourth time that I had the dream, he appeared older, and it clicked. And he said, yes, now you know who I am. And I said, yes, you're my papa. And he said, are you enjoying my fiddle? And I said, yes, very much. I treat it very nice. It was a very special thing to the family. And he goes, it's always yours to play. And I played that for years until my neuromuscular disorder kind of took it away from me. And we still have it. The fiddle itself was shipped over during the First World War from his brother, his oldest brother. And he kept it and learned how to play it and played for most of his life. And then he passed away from a brain tumor very young. I think he was 51. So I never really got to know him. So when Mother one day brought out, after Granny passed, she brought out all the photo albums we were never allowed to look at. And she was opening all these photo albums, just so happy to finally share pictures of her father with us. And she goes, do you know who that is? And she pointed at a young man with wildly curly hair that if you, I don't care how much Dapper Dan you had put on, it would not have slicked back. I said, yeah, that's Papa when he was a young man. And she goes, how do you know that? And that's why he liked to cuff his pants and wear those funny looking black shoes that looks like you put a penny in them. And she drained. Like she just went white. And she goes, how do you know that? And my family was super religious, so you didn't say anything out of sorts or they would go crazy. And finally, one day we were talking about it, and I said, Mom, when I started playing the fiddle, I started having dreams. And he would come to me in dreams and talk to me. And sometimes he would tell me that my tempo was off on certain songs. And that's the only time I think that she really believed me, because I'd never seen a picture of him young. I'd only ever seen the wedding photo. And he did not look like himself. He had his hair slicked back. Grandma had on a fur coat. They did not look like themselves. They looked like a movie star on their wedding day. And so that was the first really weird dream thing that I've had. And that continued the entire time that I played his fiddle and took lessons. So I kind of got to meet my papa through my dreams. After that, things died down for a long time until I started working at a camp for juvenile delinquents. It was either they go to prison or they go to this camp. And we had got a young man from Maryland, from Gaithersburg, Maryland. And he was troubled. And he came there on a grant. And nobody could reach him. And they would always send me to the group when he was having an issue because he was such a large, tall young man. And I was about the only one that could really kind of match him physically should something go down. Because for some reason, these people wanted to hire these 21-year-old, 110-pound girls that don't understand it. So we formed a bond really quickly because they would always call me when he was in trouble. I would have to isolate him from the group, talk him down. We got to where we formed a bond, started telling me a little bit about his family, stuff going on. He had some occult stuff that he had been introduced to by his family that he did not want to be part of. And so he was actually safer at camp than he was at home. He did not want to leave camp. In his master treatment plan, we were supposed to get him a secondary grant and let him stay almost until he was 19. We were going to exceed the limitations because the grant we could get. And his parents showed up and kiboshed the whole thing. They wanted him home. They were not going to have it. And I actually got excused from that master treatment plan because I was like, he's got demons we've not even begun to touch. The boy is just now starting to heal. He does not need to leave. He does not need to go back to the place where all this began. He needs to heal somewhere else. And the parents did not like me, but I really didn't give a hoot. And I fought for that young man. And the whole time that I was there, and he was there for probably a year and a half, I had a bill, a baseball hat that had a really long bill. And I used it when I trail ride. And so I wouldn't have a cowboy hat on, but I could tip and block the sun because I had an extra long bill. And I had that thing for 12, 13 years. My favorite hat. He always said, can I have that hat? I want that hat. And I was like, no, you cannot have this hat. And I finally made a deal with him. I said, when you graduate successfully, and I said, you escape all this crap that you put yourself right in the smack in the middle of, you can have this hat. I'll mail it to you. When you get your crap together, I'll mail it to you. Well, then I got injured when that boy threw that axe at me. Long story. We don't want to hear that one today. And I had to have a very bad leg surgery. I was off for the leg surgery, and I get an email. I didn't get a call. I didn't get somebody to come visit. I got an email. I got a bulk email that said, sadly, we've lost one of our kids. They had decided that, the grant money or not, the parents wanted him. The grant money was going to be less than they really wanted because they wanted like $3,000 more, and the grant people were being, picky. And they just decided we're just going to let him go with the parents rather than keep this boy and save his life. $3,000, we'll just let him go home and throw him back to the wolves, which made me so mad. So they had let him leave while I was on surgical leave. They had just let him go back home. They didn't tell me anything. But I get an email and it said, sadly, we've lost one of our students. And it said his name. And I could not click on it because I had such apprehension and such anger. And I was just, every emotion just kind of went over me. And plus I was healing from a surgery. And I knew not to click on that. I just like, I can't right now. I can't handle anything else. I can't right now. And for 3 months, I didn't click that link. After about 6 weeks, after I was healing from my surgery and I was doing better, and I'd had a really hard day in physical therapy, I came home and was exhausted, and I went straight to bed. And I thought I was awake. I woke up and I was in a fairgrounds, but it was empty. No one was there. It was dark. It was nighttime. The fairgrounds was empty, but it was flat. It was a flat fairgrounds, and I don't live in a flat place, so it was very strange for my mind to come up with a flat place. So you can see all of the fairgrounds, all of the barns, a Ferris wheel in the back, and it was just all empty. And I turned to my left, and there was that young man. And they called us all Chief, was what they called the counselors. He goes, "Hey, Chief Liz." And I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, I wanted to show you something that's really special to me." And I said, okay, but why did you have to bring me here? Because I knew I was not home. And he said, because this is the only place I can show you something that's very special to me. He said, you'll only understand if I can show you. And so he took me around building, and there was like a makeshift ladder up to the top of this like livestock barn. And he said, you've got to get up here to see how pretty it is. And I was like, listen, my fat butt ain't climbing that after a knee surgery. You just, made her wish something else. And then boom, I was up on top of this building with him. And it was one of the most beautiful views of this just deathly silent fairground, but it was just beautiful. Empty, silent, but it was beautiful. It was quiet and calm. And he said, this is my favorite place to be when I can't find anywhere else to be that's calm and safe. And I was like, I can understand this. This is pretty. I was like, this is a safe place for you. And he's like, yeah, I hide here a lot because there are a lot of buildings and a lot of people can't find me. And he said, this is where basically I hid when everything at home was going on. And I said, well, I'm glad you had a place to hide. And he said, I still hide here. And he said, if you need to find me, you know where to find me now. And then I heard a train. I heard a train whistle. And he said, thank you, Chief Liz. And he looked at me and he goes, Mama Liz, I love you. You helped me a lot. And he gave me a little peck on the cheek. And he said, I will have your hat one day. And I said, because I was still kind of picking on him, And he said, I've got to go. And I woke up, snap like that, out of a dream. And that bothered me for about a week. And I still went on. I was kind of bumfuzzled me. I finally sat down one day and opened the email. And it was the news story that was attached to his death. And it said at like 12:47, Gaithersburg, Maryland, at the fairgrounds adjacent from the railway park, a young man was struck by the nighttime train and passed away.
Damn.
And I've never, I don't think you can make peace with something like that. I just think you have to accept it and go on and take it as a, he just had something he needed to tell me and, and thank me. But the strange thing is about 3 months later, my hat's gone and I've never found it since. My hat's gone. I never lost that hat. I'd had that hat for 12, almost 13 years. That hat is gone, like blipped off the radar. I've lived in this house for 23 years. The hat's gone. Can't find it. Have never seen hide nor hair of it again. Pretty sure he took it. I'm okay with that, But strange things. But I think you just have to make peace with things and go on. And I think he knew that out of all the people that worked there, I was the one that fought the hardest for him. And that was his way of thanking me. And I think that was his way of saying, this is where I was safe, and I had to do something that others deemed bad to get out of something that was probably even worse. And so that's how I've made peace with it. And I miss him. I would have adopted every one of those kids and brought them home. I would have had a brood of kids that would have took up 50 acres because all they needed was love. And it's so hard. If you have a good heart, don't go into social services because it'll ruin you. Don't do it.
Right.
So that's the weirdest dream that I've ever had. The two experiences, those are the weirdest ones. But the last one with the young man, that was the hardest one for me to stomach. I still think about it sometimes. And every once in a while, I will kind of flake back in a dream to that fairgrounds. And I'll hear him say, hey, Mama Liz. Because he wasn't supposed to call me that. But when he thought no one was listening, instead of calling me chief or counselor, he'd go, hey, Mama Liz. And I hear that every once in a while in my dreams. But it'll always wake me up. It'll always snap me to, and I'll always wake up. So, can't explain it.
Right.
Just happens.
And it legit happened. I mean, you had an experience about a past family member that you never actually got to meet. And then you have an experience in a dream about this young man. And then it ends up coming true. Like, in some fashion, you got a different experience where he maybe was saying thank you and goodbye kind of a thing. Not that he knew, but sometimes I think people know, but they don't know. We'll tap into that more with Mark and some of his experiences, but it's like some people kind of know their time's coming up, but they don't fully know. It's not like I know I'm going to die here soon, but something
I think
doesn't.
my granny knew.
Right. So there's
My
some
granny
things
did,
like,
because one of the last things she told me was that I was like my papa's people. And I never understood that. And my mom wouldn't talk about that until last year, when we were having a discussion about the fiddle and how I knew this stuff. My mom finally opened up and she said, you're like your papa's people, because the moment that my papa was an engineer on the railroad, which I have got, and I have known 3 people hit by trains, and I don't live near a railroad. So imagine that. That's really irritating. But my mom, she was like, that he went between Indiana and Tennessee on the railroad. So when he went to work, he went all the way to Indiana, and then he would do a round on the train, and then he'd drive back to Tennessee. And he got up to Indiana one time, and he just told his boss, he said, something's wrong, I've got to leave right now, sorry. And he clocked out and left. And about that time, my granny got a call from his brother saying, you know, their dad was very ill. They didn't think he was going to make it through the night. And my grandpa's name was Dolphin. They called him Dop. He said, Dop needs to come home right now. And they told Granny, they said, he's already clocked out, he's on the way. And she's like, did somebody else call? And they said, no, he just got here and said he needed to leave. He got home, and literally 3 minutes after he walked in the door, before he could even get his shoes off, the phone rang, and he looked at my granny, and he said, my dad just died. And picked up the phone, and lo and behold, his dad had just died. And so then you fast forward, he got brain cancer. He had one of the first spiderweb brain cancers that the University of Tennessee here in Tennessee, they studied. My granny gave them his brain to study. And he passed away in the hospital, and the family kept, was constantly calling the room. He was very ill, and it had been deadly quiet for like 2 days. I guess everybody knew it was really close. They were trying to give him some silence for him and my granny, just to have some quiet time. And the moment he passed away, Granny said the phone rang, and it was his brother. And his brother, before she even said hello, he said, my brother just died, didn't he? So the whole family did stuff like that. And because my dad was a preacher, my mom would not let me talk about these things. And if I ever talked about things, they would tell me to hush, stop, that's evil. You shouldn't talk. And I never felt it was evil. But now, since they've gotten older, and I think the older you get, I think the more open you get. And so now we talk about it, and Mom told me all these things, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like my papa's people, I guess.
And just think if you'd have gotten the chance to cultivate that instead of being hushed up, So it sounds to me like you have a sixth sense, and your family is in a realm of being able to do that. But just, the things that we were hushed up about, if we'd have gotten to bloom and explore, no telling where we'd be.
I met some really great people that were really good guideposts for me. That kind of told me, explore this, but guard the door. And that made sense to me. And so I did. And I've had dreams a lot. I had dreams. I woke up one night screaming, crying because there was a fire, and I couldn't get the people. I couldn't get the family out of the building. I couldn't get the family out of the house. And I woke up, and I was like almost sick to my stomach, running up and down the hallway. Mom was trying to get me to sip a cup of water. I think I was in 6th grade. They sat me down at the kitchen table, and that was when Dad was pastoring churches, and he was like really strict. And he was like, if you do not stop this, he's like, we're going to have to go and have you checked out. And I was like, it must just be a bad dream. But I said, I feel like I'm supposed to be helping somebody. Lo and behold, 3 nights later, a family's house burnt down that was about 3 miles down the road, and they all died. So then my mom and Dad looked at me like, oh, crap. Like we don't know how to deal with this. We don't know what to do with this. And then after David and I married, I had a night where I said, something's wrong, something's going to happen. And I said, you put that 12 gauge by the bed. Something's happening tonight. Something's wrong. And that night, a airplane that took the wrong track around the plateau, did not go high enough, ran into the mountain, which is literally like 3 miles from my house. And it took them like almost a month to find all the pieces to all the people that were in the wreckage. So it took our rescue squad almost a month prowling miles and miles of the top of the crag of the mountain to find everybody to send back to their family. And David just looked at me like, okay, that was strange, that was weird. And then this just happened a few years ago. For 3 days, I said, I feel like somebody needs my help. It's like somebody's saying, help me. I'm supposed to help somebody. I'm needed somewhere, but I don't know where I'm supposed to be. And David's like, oh, you've just forgotten to do something and it'll pop up. I was like, no, it really bothers me. Like, I feel like I needed to like head out walking and just start asking people, what do you need? And that happened for like 3 days. And on the third day, he was getting ready to go to work. And automatically it just stopped. And I said, oh, it's gone. I said, I don't feel the pressure. I don't feel the need. I don't feel it anymore. He said, just like that. And I said, just like that. I said, I'm not needed anymore. And he goes, what do you think it was? And I said, I don't know. If I knew what it was, I would have fixed it, And he goes down the road, and about a half mile down the road where you turn to go into another main road, because we're off a road, the rescue squad had pulled into one of this really old, pretty house that I've always liked. And David used to be on the rescue squad, so he just kind of pulled in too, kind of wondering what in the crap's going on, because he was still kind of had his finger in that pie. And he pulled in, and he said, y'all need any help? And they said, no, we've got it covered. Sadly, he's deceased. And David said, what happened? And they said, well, it looks like possibly from the timeline that we're looking at with the body. A few days ago, he came out here to take the tarp off of his vehicle to start it to go to town. And the vehicle disengaged and went into neutral and rolled and pinned him against his garage. And that's where he was stuck. And they said, it looks like he was stuck there for about 3 days. And David said, when did y'all find him? And they said, oh, about 35 minutes ago. And David called me and he was like, I know who needed your help. But I'm like, I don't have GPS. Good Lord, give me GPS. If you're going to give me these feelings, give me GPS so I can get there, because I'm a human. I'm not that smart. I get the radar, but I don't get the location. So it would be nice if I could get the location beacon and be like, okay, that's where I need to go. But those are the strangest things that's happened to me, and I wanted to share those. And then I'm going to shut up so y'all can share. But I've had a weird life.
You also make dream catchers, correct?
I make dream catchers. I'm very in tune with nature. How nature, let's say, contraindicates certain things that man has created. And I will always side with nature. That's me. I was raised Baptist. My dad was a Southern Baptist preacher, which has its own problems. Anything man-made has its own problems. But right. I would always go back and side with nature. I will always bond first with nature. And it bothered my father for a long time, and now he celebrates it. And now he's more like me. When he was in the church, he was not a happy person. And every time that I would go into a church, I would know that we will be here until someone finds faults in somebody else, and then it'll break down and we'll move on. And I hated that, because faults to me were what made people special. Because that's how you bond.
Right.
And
uniqueness.
so I hated church, because you found fault in people and you broke people down, and then you moved on. And I had a very wonderful old woman. She wasn't my nanny, but I called her Nanny Clara. And she knew I was struggling. And I would go help her cook dinner on some Sundays because she was in her wheelchair. And she knew I was struggling. And she came up one day and hugged me. And I was making biscuits and I was about to cry. And she came up and hugged me. And she said, Elizabeth, honey, what's the matter? And I said, I don't know who I'm supposed to be to make anybody happy, because I was struggling so bad at that time in my life. I was a teenager. I wasn't girly enough for mom. I wasn't, tomboy enough to help dad do everything. I was going into a lot of work scenarios where the skinny girls were getting the jobs because I wasn't pretty enough to be a secretary. But I had the work skills to work in the barns, but the men didn't want to work a woman. I just never seemed to fit where anybody wanted to put me. And I was really beginning to get troubled because I wanted to go into veterinary medicine, and they told me they will never take a woman and take you on because they'll be afraid you'll get married, have kids, and they won't have your 24/7 undivided attention. Pick another line of work. And so I was struggling at that age time. And my Nanny Clara, I remember she just hugged me from a wheelchair, and she said, "You're supposed to be Elizabeth." And she said, "And whatever that means to you and no one else." And that kind of was the day I was like, oh, and it kind of clicked for me. And I made a lot of enemies after that, but I was much happier with myself after that.
You tapped into a lot of things there. I'm glad that you're not, like, I don't know if it affected you, not being able to help the person, like in one of the later stories that you just told. But I think what it also shows is that we are more connected than what. It's like it's brought out of us. It's like society is constructed in a way where it takes away our abilities to do these things that we should naturally be able to do, and we're more connected. We could alarm somebody to a harm that was coming to them, but most people be like, oh, whatever, that's just woo woo, like craziness. You're talking crazy kind of thing. And if we didn't have that culture, if we actually cultivated our gifts and what we're doing here, like when you talk about these things. Yeah. Which I think, similar to some of the stuff that Mark will be talking about, maybe some others on the panel that have had these experiences where you've dreamt something and then it came true, or you saw something that was meant to help somebody. These are the things that they're disconnecting us from so that we don't help our fellow man and woman.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And you have to search for it, but you also have to guard yourself when you search for it, because when you cast that net to find these parts of you, there are also things out there that want to take advantage of that curiosity. So you have to be super. That's the one thing I really realized young. You have to be super careful, because the things you need to find are often buried amongst things you don't want to find. You have to learn discernment. Discernment is the biggest word of my entire life. But everything I've learned about myself has always made me stronger, more capable, and it's always increased my ability to love and love others and bring love out in others. And so it can't be bad if it does that.
Right.
And so since I've met Sabrina, I've explored it even more, and I've opened up my friend circle to people that I may not have welcomed in 20 years ago when I was being a young professional and trying to embody a certain role. And I have to say that I am happier now than I've ever been. And I don't know, there's just a calm, a peace, and when I sit out and when I'm reading a book outside, or I'm sitting in my hammock, or I'm walking barefoot through my yard, it is so easy for me to talk to God. And like I tell people, I don't care if you pray to your cat Booger, as long as you're accountable to something above yourself, so that you are not the end all be all, because that's a dangerous thing to be. You have to hold yourself accountable to something, or you will just turn into a monster. And but that has opened up the ability for me to attach to that inner peace that I feel above me so much easier. And even with the things that I wish I could have changed, the people I could have helped, I still feel as though I did right by them. Like, at least there was an effort. There was an effort on my part. There was a concern on my part. And I don't feel in any way bad. I wish I could have done more, but I don't feel bad about what I was able to accomplish. So, but anyway,
Absolutely.
yes, I'm a weirdo.
Nope, not at all. I'm glad to be able to have a space where all of us weirdos can come together and actually talk about the things that we get shunned for in every other area of the world in life.
I tell people all the time, if people really understood their power, they would understand. The government, thinks that the power and the end all be all. But the government is the fly on the bull's ass, and the people are the bull. And if we could just tip our thinking to realize that, and to come into our power, our power is actually love. Because when you connect in love, nothing can overcome you, basically. So I wish if people would just shift that way of thinking and understand, just a different perspective can help it so many things. So, but those are the things that have kind of marked my life and changed the way I think. And feel free to talk about them, share them with other people. Tell me how you feel about it. I'm open to feedback. But those things changed my life, and I just wanted to share real quick before I go and take my next round of steroids and clean my kitchen.
Hey, I appreciate you sharing, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I wanted to get into and that we were getting into and that Mark's touched on. And I'm going to hear from some of the other panelists and then we'll get back to it. But thank you so much for sharing, because this is exactly the kind of stuff when people ask, what's the solution? What are we supposed to do? This is it. This is community. This is having these discussions. This is talking about the things that everybody else shuns you for. This is trying to tap into the natural abilities that we do have. Some of us a little more advanced or have more gifts in some other areas that we can all lean on. So what you just shared there, I think, is something important that a lot of society shuns.
Yeah, never be ashamed of who you are. At the time of conception, there were over 475,000 options of who you could have been. And the good Lord put you here for a reason. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what it is. You're here for a reason. So never be ashamed of you, yourself, why you're here and what you think you're capable of doing, because you're here for a reason. And I'm going to shut up because I'm loving some of these new people that I'm getting to learn. So I'm going to shut up now. And thank you for letting me speak. I just thought that my weirdness would fit perfectly in here.
I loved it. I really appreciate you coming on. And you're one of my handful of people that if you want to come on, you're always welcome, Liz. Always.
Well, I appreciate that. Guys, yous are doing a wonderful job. I am enjoying the heck out of some of the new faces and learning so much. And I appreciate yous. Y'all make my week go by, faster. I learned something. I learned 5 or 6 things every time I watch this. So being home and being disabled just keeps my mind clicking, and I appreciate you so much. So I'm going to shut up. Throw me back in the studio, and I'll see you another time, guys.
Love you, Liz.
Love you. Too. Bye.
Coming on, Liz.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
That was so awesome. She's great. And then Liz, if you can still hear us or whatnot, I hope you come on to the Bloodlines next Sunday, and we'll keep you for the whole panel. But that was awesome. So I tapped into a lot of things. I think a lot of the stuff that Mark was already getting at. Before we get back to Mark, just because I want to be able to hear from everybody and give everybody the opportunity, I don't want to. Lionessroars, you want to jump in here at all? Because I think you've got some stuff that you wanted to share, right? You've had some quite the experiences that if you're there.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so it was about 2 years ago, I was living in Florida, and I was in my RV looking for a job, and there was a strawberry field out behind where my RV was parked. And when I was falling asleep, I would feel this wave, like I was kind of floating or moving. And then I would have this dream where the RV was rolling down the field. There was a terrible storm. There was a wind. And it was just rolling, rolling, rolling. So that was happening night after night after night. And so then about a year later, I'm camped by, it was like water by a bay. And I'd be falling asleep. Now, this was when I was being targeted. And I would really feel this rocking, rocking, rocking. And there I was in the RV, rolling down the water, going out to the ocean. It was so bizarre. I guess that was the tech,
You think that somebody was purposely putting you into that scenario specifically?
Yeah, I really do. It just, and then another time when I was detoxing from the EMFs, I had this lucid dream where there was a baby rolled up in the blinds in the RV, and the baby rolled out. And I couldn't figure out what that was about, over and over again. I kept having, and it seemed so real, like I was there and I had to grab the baby and the baby was dead. And it was just horrific. I mean, that was a nightmare. It was almost like a hallucination, but it was so real.
And it might have been just to torment you. I mean, I think that's what they're doing too with some of this stuff, because a lot of these things are not pleasant. I mean, a lot of this stuff in this world is just not pleasant. So some of the stuff like what Liz was talking about that she tapped into, not always the most enjoyable. And certainly some of those stories, I mean, the one about experiencing knowing her grandfather, I believe it was, without ever having met him, those are great. But then the ones where somebody passes away or some horrific event happens, or something just traumatic that you can't explain, but you wake up. And it can mess with you for the longest time. It can last a day, it can last weeks, it can last months. It could be something you never forget that happened in a dream because it was so traumatic.
That's what it was. It was very traumatizing. Like it's like I'm there right now thinking about it.
Right, and you were detoxing from EMFs, which is something that the people with high clearances or the tech, the whatever, demonic, whatever you want to consider it, they don't want you doing that.
No, they don't want you out of Wi-Fi and no cell phone towers around you. This was down in the radio-free zone in West Virginia. Yep.
Right. They want you in your pen, in your kill box, whatever you want to call it, in the zone where they can monitor you.
Smart meter hell. That's where they want you.
Yes. And I got a smart meter right outside my bedroom window. But yes, if you're detoxing and doing stuff that they don't want you doing, then I think there are consequences. I think there are various ways to have consequences for various people, especially ones that are a little bit more in the know on this kind of stuff. Sabrina gets attacked constantly. A lot of people on these panels are talking about the same kind of thing where they're getting attacked like this, targeting. Maybe not to this degree, but everybody's a different degree of the targeting that we're all experiencing in one way or the other. But yes, some of these things are so traumatic that they will affect the way that you approach life. Some other people are talking about even parasite cleansing or doing things that are like, something maybe healthy for the body or healthy for your spirituality. I think that's part of what Liz is tapping into, Mark's talking about, and people are talking about. They don't want us to be able to do those things anymore. There was that video of Bill Gates, a lot younger, talking about vaccines that could take the God out of people. They want the spirituality and our ability to tap into each other and use our natural gifts and the God-given gifts, however you want to look at it, and they want to disrupt that. And so trauma and then making it problematic for people that are doing these kind of things like detoxing, like Lionessroars is talking about, I think is exactly the kind of things that you'll get targeted more. When I started getting sober, when you're an addict, like Liz was saying, you got to have something outside of yourself because you can't do it yourself. Even if you don't believe in God, if you're an atheist, you still got to believe in humanity is greater than you as one person, something greater than yourself. Because if you're relying on yourself and you end up becoming like an addict of some sort or going through something that that you have no control over, if you get some dis-ease that is beyond your ability to be able to heal yourself, and you need community support, you need other people to tend to you, you need other people to assist you with things, you need to be able to accept that help because you're not God. You're not able to control the circumstances of your life at all times. So you need those things above yourself. So I hope people can recognize that as well when we have these discussions. But you're tapping into some other stuff. So did you have more that you wanted to share on that?
Not so much. I did make a little list. Let me see. Oh, same dreams over and over again. Just that I couldn't make it to my locker to school. I was late for class. Couldn't find my homework. Couldn't find my books. And that was going on like way into my 20s after I had kids. Why was I dreaming about high school? It just seemed so strange. 15 years after high school and I'm dreaming about being late for class. It's stupid.
I have those same ones. That's what I'm saying. Why? I don't think about this stuff at all. Why do I have to relive that? I mean, I think maybe it's a trauma that's stored, maybe, but at the same time, also maybe they know that because they've been monitoring us for so long, so they inject us with those things. Like I could give two shits about most of my experience at Starbucks as far as like the work aspect of it. I loved a lot of the community and a lot of the people I met were really cool. And some of the interactions that I had with really cool people in the public. Now there's a lot of negative that I had too, but that was a very, I don't like corporations at all, obviously. I see what they're doing and I felt it and I got to experience it. But I have dreams where I'm back at school and I have dreams where I'm back like as a barista or working at Starbucks, and I'm like, I can't keep up, like I can't keep up with what's the demand of the things. Like Liz was saying, like having dreams back where you're back at an old job, and it's terrifying, it's horrific because it's so stressful. I don't know why that happens, but so I'm over here to discuss.
That's about it. I did mention on one of your other streamers about the shadow man that was in some of my dreams, and it was just, and then when I saw that video with shifting for sound. I was like, that's the dude that was in my dreams. And I would just say, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. And gone, you know. So that happened a couple times with the sleep paralysis when I was in college, where it was over and over and over again, just horrific, where you can't scream and you can't move and you can't get out of it. And then I finally was like, I'm going to call on him. And I felt great after that. It didn't happen anymore.
Wow, we had some similar experiences around the same time frames too, because college is around where it was really bad for me. Late high school, early college, and I didn't have any faith. I thought believing in God was dumb, to put it mildly, and I carried that for most of my early adult life. But I had the sleep paralysis. Even once you realize you're kind of in a dream and you can't get out of it, you can't wake up, can't get away from whatever it is that's being shown to you or whatever trauma. I had that. It kind of like Slender Man, but I always say it wasn't quite Slender Man. It was just like almost like when I look at the way they depict grays, I couldn't see anything. It was all dark. It was a shadow man, but it looked kind of like a gray would look, like a weird bodied entity coming out of like closets or coming around doors or coming out of something to grab me. It was that kind of stuff, like similar to what I think you're talking about. I'd
like
be like.
Yep.
But awesome. I appreciate your shares, and you can jump back in. I'm just getting around a little bit more, and then we're going to come back to Mark. Mac, are you there? Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah. I dream every night. I don't really know how to describe what's happening in my dreams, and I'd like to be able to control it, but I don't know how much of it is artificial, kind of keeping me in place. So that'd be an interesting experiment. But I'm always in the middle, in like a different dimension. I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like you're in space, and just a lot going on, like different entities being chased, traveling like from different planets. I don't know. It's a lot of weird stuff going on. So I'm trying to figure out what any of that means. But aside from that vague picture that I've given you guys, I did have a dream before COVID. And it was October 2019, and I was in New York City, and Trump was there, and everything was a circus. So it was one big circus, and Trump was running the circus. And when I left, he shook my hand, and he was like, "Thanks for experiencing the ride," or something like that. And then before the dream ended, there was this little Italian man, and he was pointing to the water, and the water was all like polluted or something. But it just stuck in my head as in like graphene or something to do with the vaccine or some poisoning. But I'm like, this is a weird dream. This, like, usually it's a recurring dream, but this is like a new dream. It happened right before COVID. And I'm like, that was definitely some sort of like foreshadowing of like something to come. So I don't know.
When you had that experience with Trump, was it a positive one in the sense that you didn't see him as evil or anything like that? He was just orchestrating the thing, or did you see it was kind of twisted, or what?
It was just so neutral that I was just like, that's the hardest thing to understand. And that was the hardest thing to understand about Trump for so long, that it's maybe more neutral than anything, of just like business, right? So I don't know. It was weird, but I'm like, that definitely was like foreshadowing something with COVID. Right. I've had that happen a few times. A lot of the times in my dreams, I'm being like transported on some type of airplane against my will. So it's like I feel like that's some high altitude platform or I don't know. Someone has my DNA stored somewhere and they're screwing with it or experimenting on me, because it sucks. It's not fun to wake up from. There's no reprieve from regular life when you wake up in that world. So I gotta learn more from Mark about how to fight back. But Yeah, it's crazy. Just
I have to say that you're describing a lot of what I've dreamt and written down, like about the dimensions, the portals. What I mean, what you were describing, I have like a 2-page thing written down in detail because it was so real and so detailed. And then I too had a Trump dream. That seemed so real. And it's so weird because this is so parallel with you, Mac. But so do you want me to tell that, Booma, real quick? My Trump dream. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, 3 maybe, that I was maybe even still a believer that somehow, all this was going to come out to the good. And I want to add too, with these things we're experiencing, I think that, I firmly believe the technology is highly involved with all this, with a lot of it. But the Trump dream, I'm not going to look in my book to find it. I can remember it. And that's that, I wrote it down and maybe that helped me remember it. But it was one of my most vivid dreams ever. And I was in a big stadium and it was kind of like one of his rallies or whatever that he used to do. And I was in the seats and he was walking through and somehow, he got around to me, shook my hand, and I said, I support you. And he said, well, good, because your dad's worried about you. And what that means is my dad was a staunch Fox Newser Republican, politics. And he had passed at that time. So for, in my dream for Trump to say, well, good, because your dad was worried about you. Like he was always worried about me being a liberal.
Right.
When in actuality, I'm like what Liz described, which is nature is my church. And so anyway, but yeah, Mac, I mean, you're sitting here saying these things and I'm just relating to all of it. So.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I was starting to think I was going too far here.
You can't go too far here. Maybe the naked dreams can get a little too far. Moses, you just chill out a little bit.
Moses is literally chilling. He's always chilled.
And if anybody noticed, I brought Pony Boy up on the screen because Moses has no idea about Pony Boy. That's Moses is 25, right? You don't know nothing about those movies. You don't know Pony Boy. But Mac touched on something like, I don't want to go down a big old rabbit hole, but I think they have our DNA. And what are they doing with it? Now, I've watched some of the Black Mirrors where somebody gets the DNA, they just gets like a swab off of like somebody's pop can, like drinking out of a cup or something like that, puts them into a simulation and then has control over them. And it's like their consciousness, a part of their consciousness is in this fucking simulation that this psychopath controls. Now,
that's what it feels like. Sorry.
Right? Right? Like they could be like, when we talk about other dimensions and stuff like that, it could be that. It could be partially also them putting us into simulations. I think is before we came on, we Ready Player One, I think I talked about with Moses a little bit and the younger generations and some of the tech that does look appealing. If I was young and I saw some of the tech out there, I'd be like, that looks freaking awesome. But Ready Player One, the Oasis, a simulation where you're living more in the simulation than in the life. If they're gonna do that, if they're gonna have like some swap, or they're gonna have real life and a simulation where you spend most of your time in the simulation to do your transactions, to basically just distract you while they do whatever they want on the surface, whatever's going on. They have our DNA. They could be setting us in simulations, and we could be experiencing ourselves in these simulations because they're just having human experiments nonstop. Data collection. It's what it's all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Or what if we're experiencing like what they put our digital twins through?
Exactly. And go ahead, Heather. I was going to you next. We'll give you an opportunity, and then we're going to get to Mark and hopefully let him share some more, and then some of the solutions and stuff too. I mean, not that there's full-on solutions, but some of the stuff that he's been talking about, people are really excited about links and some of that. But Heather, go ahead.
It's just something I've been thinking a lot about because the dream I had 4 years ago when I prayed for them to stop, and basically most of my dreams stopped completely. And I had a lot of night terrors. I had a lot of really weird dreams where in the dream I'm supposedly in my house, but it's not my house. And there was one reoccurring one where if I could reproduce this house, I would. And it was weird because it would be like you were in the hallway and there'd be lots of rooms, but there was this one, it almost looked like a cupboard, but when you opened it up, there were stairs that went up and there's like an entity that lived up there. So I was always afraid and like shower in the hallway, like there's a door, it just weird kind of stuff, or stairs that went to nowhere. It'd be these long stairs and I get up and they just end. There's nothing. But I've had dreams where it's like VR headset, where it feels like I'm in a simulation, like looking in a simulation, sort of like a VR headset before you start the game, where it's all kind of fuzzy, but you can see everything, right? My bed, where my door is. I'm in my house, and it's my house. It's where I'm sleeping. And I've had dreams where it's almost like an out-of-body experience, sort of. That's why I was thinking, like with the digital twins, maybe it was almost like I knew I was still laying in bed and I was sleeping, but there was something going on, and I actually like got up. A part of me, like my spirit or something, got up and was following the men that were in my house. And then when it got to the bedroom door, they shut the bedroom door, but I could see through it. So it's just really trippy experiences. And when I woke up from that particular one and I went and checked the other people that were here sleeping, they were exactly in the same positions as it was in my dream. I mean, exactly. Clothing, the positioning of the clothing as they're sleep. I mean, everything. So it just kind of makes me wonder. When you talk about stuff like
It's creepy when you have dreams that like coincide with like real life, right? That's how my dreams would be. Like I wouldn't realize I was falling asleep because it was still in the dream. We're getting feedback here. We'll let the baby mute while you're not talking, but I'm going to come right back to you, Heather. I just wanted to relate to that because I would have dreams where like while I was falling asleep, it would take so long to fall asleep. But then once I finally did, I didn't realize I was asleep because in my dream, I was having the exact experience that I would have if I just opened my eyes while I was awake, because I'm seeing the same room, the same everything, and I don't realize I'm asleep. So are they, what the question like I've had now when I've learned more about the possibilities that are going on, like, are they doing this? Is it like a simulation they're putting you in? Are they literally like, I don't want to say it's like the Men in Black kind of a thing, but like these hired jobs, if you will, that are like manipulating the scenario that you're experiencing? What do you think is going on there? I mean, not that we fully know, but go ahead.
honestly, I really don't know. Because I've only had a few of those particular type dreams where it's like, I used to have a lot of them when I was younger, and I was probably in my 30s when I had most of those I guess for about 20 years, almost 15 years. I was having those kind of dreams here and there, and it would always be the same. It would always look the same. I knew where I was. Everything was in place. If I had a dirty dish in the kitchen, it would be there. So it was like I was walking through my own home, but I knew I was still sleeping. And it was different it felt similar to the night terror dreams, except for because I'm the fear and stuff, like I could sense like something was going on. There'd be something, and there was always something in the house that I knew wasn't in the house when I went to sleep. Even my dog one time that had already been passed away. And that was a better dream. That was a much better dream. But for the most part, they've been really terrifying. And I still feel like I can't talk. But part of me is moving around and seeing stuff. And I can't hear anything either. So it just makes me wonder, because it's different, like a night terror where it's not like a VR headset. Things are similar in the house, but they might be slightly different. There's always like shadows, kind of like I could see shadows in the background and I'd feel things, but I couldn't, I'd wake up going, oh, like that, because I couldn't even get a sound out. But that was different from these what I call a VR headset dream. So that's what makes me wonder. Those felt different. And everything is in place, including when they're sleeping, like, and the clothing to the side. I mean, literally, when I woke up, I was just like, I couldn't. I still felt like I was dreaming, but I knew that I wasn't, and because I knew I was in my body moving around. I don't know. Those are the scariest for me.
That's wild.
And so when I'm in the dream state, like I had men in my home, when I wake up, there were no men in my home. You know, my people that I knew were already there. We were all sleeping. It's the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, basically. I think it was around 2 to 3 in the morning when I had that. And that's usually around the time that happens too.
There's something about that 3 a.m. mark, right? I mean, they push that in like music videos and other movies and stuff. I'm gonna mute you just real quick. You can unmute in a moment here, but 3 a.m. Like I remember because I was big into Eminem. He did like this. There was like the bath scene where he's like in a bath of blood, but 3 a.m. in the morning. But people often talk about 3 a.m. being like nightmares, or they wake up at that time. That is always like right on when the time they wake up. Then they go back to bed after a really crazy dream or something creepy and scary happens.
Well, is that a spell cast? Is that a spell cast? Have we been programmed? Is that why that's happening at that time? Because we're seeing it so much in videos and movies and whatever.
Right. Diane, go ahead if you wanted to speak on that. There is something about that.
Yeah, that's just
right?
You're right. You know, that is, I think we've been programmed that 3 a.m. is the witching hour. That's the, you know, what was that paranormal movie? And that's, you know, where whatever visitor being would come into the bedroom, and it was always at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think that in the movies, they program that to us. But it's odd though, is that I wake up a lot of nights in that time. I don't know about anybody else, but I wake up a lot between like 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning, often.
I believe it has to do with the state of being you're in at that time, which also relates to your circadian rhythms.
I think
also
it's a combination of those things. Yep.
And the W band too. I think they're probably like reprogramming everybody or like resetting things at that time. That makes a lot of sense to me too. Like, I don't know.
That's when the system backups run.
It could, and I know it sounds like sci-fi, and some people that come on here that don't know anything about this or think that this is all kooky. Like it's hard not to laugh a little bit because it's like nervous laughter. Like it very well could be exactly what's going on. Some kind of reset, some kind of like frequency burst out there, or certain things are timed for, because everybody's in different time zones, different areas of the earth, whatever it is, flat or round, or whatever you want to consider it. There's something about that. And when you think about REM sleep and what it takes for the body to actually recharge and get worthwhile sleep, it takes a little bit of time to get into that REM sleep. So why not disrupt it right around the time that you might go into it, and then people that you could sleep 8 to 10 hours and not get restful sleep, not get real sleep, because you're being like bombarded with some kind of frequency or some kind of nightmare, some kind of something that throws you off from being able to hit that, like theta waves and stuff like that, to hit all the waves that we that are healthy. They keep us clear.
What if around the time that you're falling asleep is the best time for them to tap into you and then redirect instead of you know what I'm saying? They can like.
Well, that's been happening to me a lot more lately. I can tell you that.
When you fall asleep, sometimes and you're like, oh, you know how sometimes I'll be laying here and it's like I feel like I'm falling all of a sudden, but I'm not, and I won't allow myself to fall asleep. I want to allow myself to actually go into it because I feel
Charley.
What's up, Charlie? I had to mute you because there was some feedback, but you good
Sorry
now?
about that.
I think it's good now.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. This is fascinating. Thank you all for sharing all your cool stories.
This panel is not even, we're like halfway through it. It's been kick-ass, right?
Yeah.
Those amazing stories. I knew everybody can relate to this and stuff like that. Maybe not everybody has like stuff to input on like the bloodlines specifically, like those kinds of different topics that we get into, but everybody can relate to this one. So this will probably be a reoccurring thing, but welcome, Charley. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, hey Charlie. But Heather, do you find when you have that sensation, well, you don't let yourself go to sleep. For me, is when I'm getting ready to go. And this used to happen periodically, but now it happens a lot more. And that is such a good point, that disruption, Booma, because and then I can't get to sleep for hours when that happens. Like if you catch me when I'm in that in between and I'm almost gone and something goes like this, I'm done. It's hours before I can get to sleep.
I'm just wondering because I'm always, when that happens, I'm always have the feel, I'm afraid, I'm scared to go to sleep. Like even though I know I need to and I want to, if I have that sensation, and I don't have that sensation every time I go to sleep, it's just sometimes. So I'm wondering if it's like I'm kind of pushed, like they're into, and I'm like, because I can't explain the fear. I'm not afraid to go to sleep unless I wake up from a nightmare and I don't want to go right back to sleep because I don't want to continue it. But other than that, on an average, I'm not scared to go to sleep. But sometimes when I have that sensation where I'm falling as I'm hitting it, that's when I get, and it's like I get nervous to even go to sleep. And I never could understand why I felt that way. But I think I don't know, maybe there's something to it. Maybe just that I could sense something tapping into me and it scared me.
So from the research that I've done in the past, just due to my experiences, a lot of people relate that feeling of falling to be a transitional thing. It's part of the hypnagogic state, which is basically your transition between your waking and your sleeping. I'm pretty sure that process is what happens to everyone every night. I think it's how lucid you are that determines whether you first feel the vibrations and then you feel the dropping feeling. But if you weren't that lucid, say you were super, super tired, your consciousness would drop down to, next to nothing. And then you wouldn't notice that you're having those vibrations or that you feel that act of falling. But it's also tied from multiple sources to the idea that when you're dropping like that, you're potentially feeling your energy body drop out of your physical body, which means you're prime for either lucid dreaming or astral projection.
I don't really like the idea of astral projecting. Something about that doesn't sit well with me. Like for me, I just wouldn't mind having a dream where I'm flying or something like that, or feeling that like that. But there's maybe because I feel that way, that's why I keep waking myself up, because I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
I think it's because of the psyops. I think they've ran so many psyops with regards to remote viewing, astral projection, astral plane, that they have muddied the waters, and they put the influencers out there. That's why I call out all these grifters a lot. That's why I call out these psyop artists. I don't know everything, and some of the stuff that I share, we can have a discussion on or whatnot as far as like exposing these fools, but some of it's pretty logical. But that's what I've witnessed, is that these influencers come out there and they talk about all this astral stuff that they're doing, and then the remote viewing they're doing, and then the ability to go outside their body through meditation and travel wherever they want to go and all this kind of stuff. They have put so many like they're probably controlled. Let's just say they're controlled by the system, controlled by a handler, controlled by the tech, and they've put so much woo-woo, what I don't know what else to call it. It's just like, it's not true stuff. Now, it's not easy to pinpoint black and white what is true anymore. Or maybe that's been the point the whole time that we've ever been here, because they want us in this game of duality. But I know exactly what you're talking about, Heather. I don't feel comfortable about talking about the astral because that guy I freaking was a part of, that cult that I was in. He talked about that shit all the time, and he muddied it so much that it'll drive you batshit crazy. But there might be something to it. Maybe astral isn't even the right word for it, but there's something about it, right?
I can't explain why necessarily, other than maybe I'm going to run into something that I'm not ready to face or something, or don't want to, or maybe I feel like I'm going to lose control. I don't know, but I've also had a situation where I've had an out of body experience because of trauma, and I actually could look down and I was watching it happen to me, and I looked away. So maybe because anytime that's happened, it's been because of that. And so when I get that same kind of sensation, I just immediately reject it. I don't know. But I don't like the idea of astral projection. I don't like the idea of me leaving my body and going somewhere else unless it's time for me to go home. But that's just me.
I agree with you. I'd say particularly given the fact that it has been, astral projection has been so pushed and embraced by the New Age movement, with the roots in the theosophy and some of the Jewish mysticism, that sort of thing, where we're sort of worshiping the creation instead of the creator. Like, look what I could do. I can travel in the astral planes in space, and it becomes more of an egoic experience as opposed to a humble spiritual experience, one that you can go out and, flex about. Well, at least out here in California, the rhetoric is constantly, well, I astral projected to so-and-so and I saw you there. Oh my gosh, I saw you there too. It's just, it's a movement. And I think that its roots are in things like, these systems we talk about. They want us to lean into faith in our own psyche, lean into our own understanding, and our own godification of self, for lack of a better term, as opposed to, which leans us away from humility and the openness required to perceive objective reality. They get you by the egoic balls, essentially. They get you by the pride, So that's why I'm very careful treading around the astral conversation, astral projection, and that sort of thing.
I think it also makes me feel like it's like if you do play with that too much, it would be too easy for you to end up in the wrong place or taken over or something. That's just me. Now, I can't read anymore because I'm on my phone. I thought I saw my name. Somebody say something to me.
Well, some people have been saying amen to you, and they agree with what you're saying.
Oh. Well,
I'm going to read what Biscuit said here real quick, though, and then I'll go back. Biscuit says, I would astral project myself, but I am banned from banking there as well. So reservations and such are a pain. He's banned from that, too.
Right. Oh my goodness, he's bad for even a dream state.
I agree with Monica. I don't think astral projection is bad. I think it's actually a natural part of who we are, and where people kind of see dreaming and the waking world as separate. I'm not sure we're actually supposed to see it that way at all. I think it's supposed to be kind of considered a continuation of the life that we're living. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily bad. I do think, like with a lot of things, you have to exercise caution, and you definitely want to make sure that you are in top condition to do it, and that you are as lucid as possible. Without that level of lucidity, without using discernment, yeah, you can end up in some trouble. And I'm actually very grateful for my lucidity and my discernment. because I've had multiple scenarios where I've dealt with, more than a few nasty things. And they can show themselves as very benign things. So I talked about that a little bit earlier when the Streama started. And so one of them actually showed themselves as a kindly old lady. But and the vision was flawless. There were no mistakes. There was there was nothing that I could visually tell that wasn't the case. But the feel was very, very, very off. And as soon as I navigate by feel when I dream, and when I felt that, the very first thing that came to my mind, and I asked the question sort of in my head in the dream, is this a demon? And the second that I asked that question, I started hearing the song from Insidious in my head, which to me was the confirmation that yes, that is exactly what I'm dealing with. And the second that this kindly old lady had realized that the jig was up, the face started to change, and she wasn't happy. Let's just put it that way. So they can disguise themselves, and it's kind of like knowing that you're living in an ocean where, maybe you're a tuna or something like that, or even something as small as a plankton. You know that there are bigger things than you. You know that there are things that are more experienced in the ocean than you, and you kind of want to just choose your environment based on that knowledge so that you stay safe.
Right. I mean, it definitely takes confidence in your discernment too. You must be absolutely confident that you are entirely not leaning into your own understanding, that you have perfect discernment, which I think is a leap of faith for any human, because we're all, influenced by our own millions of variables of our own life experience and our own, desires. That the trope from the X-Files, I want to believe, right? Talk about social programming. Mulder wanted to believe in aliens. And so that influenced his perception. He wanted to believe. He didn't believe. He wanted to believe. So sometimes I think about discernment a lot. And I agree with you, Mark. You're right on the money with that being absolutely fundamental. Unfortunately, at least here in California, spiritual discernment in these realms of astral projection and the new age is sorely lacking, and it becomes more of a competitive trend that has its roots in the Timothy Leary LSD new age type stuff. And I know Monica was referencing like astral travel and dreams before, and how it's not a new thing. Absolutely not, but it has been co-opted by the new age movement. And the Bible goes into prophecies, dreams. God said he was going to be bestowing truths and dreams upon women and men, particularly heightening towards the end times, right? But of course, we have these systems that are, neural nudging and triggering as well. But the Bible also just scripturally warns against, the heart is wicked above all things. So sometimes we want to place our faith in our own perceptions over perhaps the truth of the situation. And there's a lot of influence out there from media, film, television, music, and the neural nudging that are pushing us to jump to those conclusions. So I'm just very cautious about it. That does not mean I don't appreciate your perception and your experience, particularly, Mark, because you are so careful about your discernment and you're so wise about making sure that what you're doing as a journeyman of these spiritual planes is well thought out. But again, it's not necessarily the case for everybody.
Yeah. Well, what you were saying about the fear and trying to be cautious and whatnot, and discernment being something that can be not necessarily accurate because of everything that's kind of going on in the background. I mean, we can apply that not just to dreams and astral projection. We can apply that to, you know, the real world, and especially with this group, you know, and listening to Sabrina's work and whatnot, it's very obvious that the technology is available, that if they really wanted to throw us in an electronic matrix, they probably could do it. You know, but what I've actually learned is it's actually much better to throw somebody into augmented reality than it is to actually, you know, put them in an entire, you know, and the Matrix movie spells out exactly why, because it never in the end actually feels quite right. And then in the end, people's, you know, at a soul level, they're discerning that feeling isn't right, which inevitably leads to the one always being, you know, born at some point, you know, and multiple ones really. You know, they might not reach the pinnacle of what Neo was able to do, but there were multiple individuals that kind of broke free and you know, that sort of thing. So I mean, when you're looking at that sort of level of discernment and cross-checking your discernment and whatnot, you know, that applies in this world as well as, you know, when you dream. So I mean, as long as people like us are always looking in that sort of way, then, you know, I think, you know, the go ahead, because like I said, it's honestly something I think we're naturally gifted and always able to do. And yeah, even without the tech, there's other things that can infiltrate the dreamscape. And, you know, again, it's you're a guppy or something in a pond or, you know, in an ocean, and you just have to realize that there are sharks out there. But that, again, that applies whether you're in the dream world or the real world. It really doesn't matter. So
absolutely. The variables are endless, and we can't just sit here not trying to explore our spirituality naturally and intuitively in ways that make sense for each and every one of us, which is why this panel is so freaking cool, because we are plugging in so many different perceptions. The 3 a.m. discussion about how, you know, a lot of people wake up at 3 a.m. I wanted to plug in that in Chinese medicine, that is the time that the liver is most active, detoxifying. And the liver is the seat of anger in Chinese medicine. And those heightened emotions and stuff. So as your liver's moving out all the fucking toxins and crap that we're exposed to, it's very disruptive to the sleep cycle, which is very well known in Chinese medicine. But it has indeed been co-opted by the entertainment industry horror genre movement, the 3 a.m., the witching hour. It's just your liver pushing out all the metamaterials, or, you know, doing the best it can to handle its own toxic burden. And that can jar you right out of sleep.
yeah, and going based on that take from earlier when people were talking about it, I did a search, and the search was just plainly 3 a.m. and circadian rhythm. And yep. The AI overview, waking up around 3 a.m. is closely tied to your body's internal clock and hormonal shifts. At this hour, your core body temperature starts to rise, melatonin levels peak and begin to decline, and your body prepares for the upcoming day by increasing cortisol production. If your sleep is light or stressed, these transitions can easily pull you awake. So then there's other listed common triggers for 3 a.m. waking up: cortisol and blood sugar, alcohol and digestion, sleep stages, and hormonal shifts. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that's really based on, I understand that what you just found online, but people go to bed at different times of night, right? So, like, is it after you're falling asleep when your body starts doing these processes, you know, to digest and to detox and everything that it does at night when we sleep? I don't know.
Our bodies. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, you're wondering if maybe the circadian rhythm or the Chinese wheel of organ cycles shifts based on somebody's own personal sleep schedule.
That's what I'm wondering, right?
Yeah. It's a great
because if you don't go to bed, it's like some people go to bed early and some people go to bed late. And if everyone's waking up at 3 a.m., doesn't matter what time you went to bed, right? Is this really, is it our bodies doing this or something outside of us?
Right. Those are big questions because, and ones that I have not found great answers of in Chinese medicine, because, you know, we all have different sleep schedules. You know, there's time zones aside, Chinese medicine tends to lean towards this is just how your body works based on the sun and the moon and the hours of the day. And that your sleep schedule will not change what organs are firing, what systems are heating up during that 24-hour period every day. But I don't know. I mean, I tend to side with Chinese medicine on most things, but I do have similar questions that you do, Diane.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, like I mentioned before, like people think, is it this or is it this? And I think in a lot of cases, it's actually both. Like, for instance, you know, we're saying that the circadian rhythm affects, you know, our sleep cycle, you know, around that time for specific reasons. And it seems to be that is true. But at the same time, you can see why there are certain strategic times where it would make sense to attack somebody technologically or whatnot. And that just happens to be the best time, you know, so you're going to get both happening simultaneously.
It makes sense they would opportunistically utilize the natural rhythms of the body to hit when your system is most vulnerable. That makes sense. Of course they would know that, right?
I think it also depends as to like, why are you waking up at that time? Are you waking up to go pee? Are you waking up because you were sweaty? Are you waking up in pain? You know, I think all these, the reason why you're waking up, if there is a reason, obviously, if you're just waking up just like that, there's nothing happening, then, you know, I understand the question, but I feel like if you're waking up for a reason, then that should help you find out, you know, what's wrong with the liver or whatever the case may be to come to a adequate conclusion.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that, Moses. I mean, but I've woken up, you know, if I go to bed at like 10 and I wake up between like 12 and 1 to go pee, I'm still waking up at 3 a.m. even if I don't have to, right? It's something else.
Okay.
And I am, you know, I'm an older woman, right? So, you know, the menopause and hot flashes are real. And they're very cruel. So it's, you know, I do have a you know, nightly dance with the blankets on and the blankets off, the blankets on.
Yes,
girl. A lot of us go through that. But still, I can usually go right back to sleep, right, when I cool off. And then, but randomly, it's like, why am I awake at 3 a.m.? I don't want to be awake at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know for sure that all of our bodies detox while we're asleep. Like, I know the brain just does like this dump, and your nervous system as well when you're asleep, you know. But yeah, the whole 3 a.m. thing, it's definitely common. I've caught myself waking up at 3 a.m., but it was for reasons like either had night sweats or I would want to go pee. But it's all reasons that I could trace back, right? So if I wake up at 3 a.m. to go pee, it's like I drank a liter of water probably 2 hours ago. So, you know, makes sense, you know. When it comes to the sweat stuff, you know, I was cleansing the body at that time. So it makes sense that I'd wake up and have these sweats and everything. But everyone has these little things that makes their experience different. So
when your liver's kicking in at 3 a.m., you know, urination, sweating, those are, you know, further downstream of the detoxification process. So they could be indicative of the liver pushing things out, and then the bladder releasing, the sweat releasing detoxification through the skin, because the liver is, I mean, with us perimenopausal and menopausal ladies with the night sweats and stuff like that, estrogen spikes, we have difficulty with regulating body temperature, and that can cause the estrogen toxicity can cause a backup and buildup in the liver. So the system is trying to push out that excess estrogen too. But it all still points right back to the liver, and not ghosts per se. Not that there's not also a ghost. I have one. You all know I have a fucking ghost. But
You admit it now? Oh my gosh. We're making progress.
I must have watched the replay and saw it walking around.
Sorry, Diane, go ahead.
I was going to say, Charley must have watched the replay and saw it herself.
Yeah, it's undeniable, right? She can't deny it anymore. She was
I can't deny it anymore.
Yeah, she tried to act like it wasn't real. It's nice to see that you're coming to, if you will.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for pointing that out for me. Couldn't have done it without you.
So you've never partaked in the astral plane in any way, shape, or form, huh? Or have you?
I totally have. My dad's New Age Christian church, like he was a channeler.
Yep.
His eyes would change color when he would channel entities, and he's written a New Age theosophical book. You know, he's very Blavatsky-esque, but he's also Christ-centered, so he manages to somehow merge the two in his mind. But I definitely, when I was in that house where I had that weird magnetic experience with the blinds on the window, I had all kinds of out-of-body experiences in the Bay Area, just north of that large particle accelerator, the Stanford Labs, which may have been creating an altered state of consciousness. But yeah, I used to put on my the sounds of dolphins and whales with wind chimes, those old CDs from the 80s and 90s where you could just, zen out. I don't know. It was an era. And I would lay on my back, and one time was really weird because I had my headphones on, and I was astral projecting, for lack of a better term, enjoying it immensely, and was jolted back into my body. And the headphones had, because the speakers were just blasting, and the headphones had moved from on my boombox, because it was the 90s, had moved from the microphone or the headphone jack and into the microphone jack. So, and I had not done that. So it's not like they just pulled out and this sound was coming through. They had pulled out of the headphones that I was listening to and been replugged back in to the microphone jack, which is really weird. So that's my experience astral projection wise.
And during all those years where you were taking psychedelics and massive amounts of mushrooms, do you feel as though the mushrooms were putting you into the astral plane?
Yes, I was doing handfuls.
All the
handfuls
time.
of mushrooms.
Just so everyone knows, that's part of Charley's past. We don't talk about it that much, but I'll bring it up for demonstration purposes at this point, because I did a lot of shrooms. Okay, I'm just going to confess it. I did them. I did all the shrooms. I did so many shrooms that Charley couldn't even have access to the shrooms, right? Actually,
I did shrooms twice. I took a cap once, and I broke my fucking foot.
Oh, while you're on shrooms, that's no fun.
Yeah. And my friend jumped into a bush of what he thought was poison ivy. I stayed in a tree for like 5 or 6 hours. I was 20.
Yeah, that's not good, Rip. That's not good.
I liked it. I had a great time until I broke my foot. Me and the tree were simpatico, bro. And then
how did you break your foot? Did you jump out of the tree? Think you could
No,
fly?
we were hiking in Griffith Park, and I was wearing stupid shoes. They were like slide on, like Birkenstocks, and I just landed weird, and I just broke the central metatarsal of my foot. And I tried to walk it off for 3 days, just like nauseous about it. Like, please don't be broken. Because I was at the height of my, dance career too at the time. So I was just in active denial. And then the second time, my friend made mushroom tea. We were at his boss's beach house. He was looking after his boss's beach house, and he was a real fucking prankster. So he made us mushroom tea, and we were just sitting out watching the dolphins jump, just having a lovely experience. And he brought us all inside, and my ex-husband and I, he had beckoned for us to sort of follow him, and he told us, like, there's something really weird about the house, and he had to show us. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. And so we're following him up the stairs, and he starts pointing at like picture frames, and we're like having a closer look at the frames, and we're recognizing, like, that's me, or that's my husband. My friend had replaced all of the picture frames, the photos in the picture frames of my friend's boss's house, with photographs of me and my ex-husband.
That's so messed
throughout
up.
the house. Well, after he got us fucking looped out on shrooms. So
that's so fucked up.
It was quite a prank.
It's funny outside of the high, or outside of the trip, yes. I guess you would say, when it comes to shrooms. But that's horrible to do to somebody after you get them all fucking. Oh God.
It was rough. It was hilarious though.
Right.
I gave him a lot of points for that one.
Right, because that would freak you out for a bit. But was it kind of funny while you were tripping though? Like, because at first you were freaked out, and then kind of like, I see what you did.
We figured it out pretty quick. But for a good like half hour, I'd say, we were like, what the fuck? We were trying to figure it out, and then we're like, wait, there's a way simpler example, an explanation for this situation.
Right. And the only reason I brought this up is because I think that there is something to psychedelics when you're talking about dream states. You're talking about tapping into other things that you can tap into, I think, through natural means. You don't have to, don't do drugs. That's up to you. You see what happens when you take a lot of drugs. You get someone like this and worse things, I guess. But there's something about the state of mind that you tap into in both dreams and psychedelics and certain forms of meditation and practices. And so I brought up the shrooms, and I was having a little fun at Charley. But also the time that I had the ability to do the most lucid dreaming, it wasn't psychedelics, but I did take supplements from I don't want to name the company. They were made, they weren't psychedelic mushrooms, but they were different formulations of, they were way expensive, of mushrooms though, that did allow me to have lucid dreaming, where I had at times a little more control than I normally do. It was fascinating. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but there's a lot of benefits to shrooms. And we've talked about fungi. We've talked about the EMFs. We've talked about the neural networks and all that kind of stuff with shows with Charley. And I find it fascinating that there are, in non-psychedelic shrooms, I was making a joke before, even though I think the states are, you could have a discussion about it. Microdosing is becoming a thing. But there is something about fungus, or something about some of these herbs. And I think Mark's going to get into that a little bit when we get into solutions. So hang to the end of the show for the solutions. So don't leave yet, because I want to get into that. But I had the ability to do a little more lucid dreaming with different formulations of mushrooms. Non-psychedelic is what I'm saying. And I had an experience, because we're talking about the liver here and different things that happen when you inflame the liver, or when there's problems with the liver. You have crazy dreams. I had crazy dreams because of alcoholism and the stuff that I had with drugs. I had experiences with demons and very dark things at that time. But there is something like the Chinese, I think, done with that Chinese medicine for many, many thousands of years before, Western medicine's never really caught up, I guess. But they talk about the inflammation of the liver, having anger issues. I had a lot of anger issues when I was really dealing with the alcoholism and stuff like that. you have some slides, Charley, I think you want to get into. I think that kind of touches on some of this stuff. You want to bring those in now? You're muted.
Sorry, rookie. There, we can bring him in at the end too. Mark's got stuff that he's gonna share too.
The solutions come at the end. We have to keep everybody at the edge of their seat wanting solutions, and then the people that watch the replay are just gonna go to the solutions, I guess. But we're keeping people at the edge of their seat, Charley. Okay. And then Mac's been sharing some stuff in the private chat. So I want to get to yours, since you were just talking and confessing to the fact that there are ghosts in your house and that you did lots of shrooms growing up. Now we've got these confessions out. It's a beautiful thing. More truth is flowing through Charley. Let's bring in your slides. Then I want to go and Mark, you're always welcome to have any at any point jump in. I'm not trying to avoid you. I just want to get everybody in, and we're going to have you on, and we're going to do this again too. I want to get into these slides with Charley. And then I want to talk about some of the stuff that Mac is showing, because it touches more on some of the stuff that goes to the jobs and the technology and the things that they might be using to against us in our sleep. So let me pull up your first slide here, and we'll go through these, and then we'll wrap it up with Mark and some solutions and some things that have helped him and practices. So here we go.
This I basically kind of covered. It's a simple the organ wheel of Chinese medicine that tells you which organ systems are firing at what time during your 24-hour period every day. So that's where I was just referencing earlier. So if people wanted a visual for that, you can just Google that or pull that up, and I can drop it in the Telegram chat too for people who are interested. It just helps.
And if you notice, and I learned a lot of this. I mean, I've been interested in this stuff even when I was in college a little bit. Didn't take it as seriously as what I would take it later on in life. But when I was studying massage therapy, we got into Chinese medicine. And so you see there the wood element and then the liver, and it's talking about at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It's right in that range there, but deep sleep, detox, blood, rest, and recovery planning, the importance of the liver when it comes to detoxing, in all forms, what Lionessroars was talking about with detoxing EMFs, all of that goes through many aspects of the body, the peripheral nervous system, the nervous system, but the liver takes on the burden of a lot of this. And when I was going through my alcoholism, it really threw that off and messes with a lot of things. I think a lot of the drugs that they put out there and a lot of the frequencies do the same thing. Let's go to the next one here.
Well, it's just because our bodies are in this state of toxicity now that we've never experienced before. And beyond that, the radio frequencies cause oxidative stress, which taxes the liver too. So now everyone's waking up at 3 a.m. and thinking demons instead of your liver, maybe start making some changes. We have to make changes now to thrive under the oxidative and toxic burden that we're all suffering from. This is just, both of these photographs note that sleep disturbances and insomnia are obvious byproducts of electromagnetic frequency exposure, as well as brain fogs, headaches, tinnitus. We're always looking for deeper answers, going to all kinds of different specialists, but sometimes the answers are right there in your hand on the device that you're researching your symptoms on. Maybe your brain fog is being caused by the device in your hand, or the headphones on that you have, the wireless headphones or whatever. But the one on the right is a photograph taken of a 5G tower. And if they're even willing to admit that these frequencies can cause headaches, insomnia, cognitive fog, tinnitus, vision problems, heart issues, flu symptoms, muscle and nervous system problems, MS, Parkinson's, they're admitting it on their towers. You don't have to look a whole lot deeper. And these towers, they're foreboding and creepy looking and stuff, but what's less creepy looking is the router in your house and your smartwatch or your Fitbit or your cell phone. Your cell phone and your router are cranking out the same levels of high frequency as these towers. In fact, it's worse because it's closer to you. So
Right.
you need to be less concerned about the router across the street hurting you and more concerned as you're scrolling on your device that's pumping out the same frequencies, but immediately at you.
Right. And
So-
so when we talk about all the frequencies and the things that we're up against and things that are affecting us and affecting our sleep state or affecting our ability to get a good night's sleep, or it's zapping us throughout the day while we are awake, it's these kinds of things. And now most people on the channel know about these things. But if for some reason you tuned in, maybe you saw the handsomeness of Mr. Moses and you were like, oh, I got to check this out. What are these guys into? And you're just looking at that jacket that he wears, and you're just like, man, that guy's got some style. And you come in here and now you're learning some stuff. Like, that's the way it goes, man. That's life. You were brought here for a reason. And thank you, Moses, for providing that vector of style. All right.
Most people are here for the jacket. Most, I think you have the metrics to prove it.
I think it's gone up ever since he wore the jacket this time. We're going to find out when the numbers come in. Okay. Here's the next one. Well, bam.
For those of us who are having trouble sleeping, especially, this is just a nice image of reminders of the things that might be antagonizing your ability to get good sleep. Of course, the higher toxic burden that you're under, the more reactive that you're going to be to these frequencies. And anybody who's gone through an airport scanner, where they, my friend went through one not all that long ago, and she's a very, very healthy lady, makes very, very clever choices with her diet and her environment. She's aware of mold, she's aware of EMFs, but she noticed that her liver lit up like a Christmas tree in that that scan, in the airport scanner. And she's like, holy shit, why would there be signal bouncing off of my liver? Well, I mean, our livers, the bad news is we've all got a lot of metal in our livers. So they're, apart from just being taxed from toxins, they've got a lot of metals in them, heavy metals in them, that when those metals are being exposed to electromagnetic fields, it's going to heat up the tissues of the liver and cause oxidative damage to the liver. And that is just going to antagonize your ability to detoxify appropriately, and probably wake you up a lot more at 3 a.m., especially if there's, a router or a laptop or a smartwatch or a phone in your sleeping space, or a smart meter on the outside of the wall.
Absolutely. All right, let's get the last one that you got here, and then we'll get to Max stuff here. All right, take it away.
Okay, well, this is just, I was curious what the Bible said about dreams, and I didn't put up there, and I should have. Ecclesiastes 5:3 says, "For the dream hath come by abundance of busyness, and the voice of a fool by abundance of words." So what that's implying, the dream hath come by an abundance of business. We're worried, we're hurried, we're overwhelmed, we're stressed out. Dreams amplify when we are in that state. And electromagnetic aberrations and signals are going to affect your neurology and your psychology and put you in a stress state. Even if you're not necessarily super stressed out with a million things in your life, your neurology and psychology are being affected. As we know from previous shows and from books like The Invisible Rainbow and The Body Electric, EMFs cause psychological dysregulation and derangement of neurological signaling. Anxiety, depression, paranoia, psychosis, schizoaffective disorders. And again, certain people are more sensitive to EMFs, and that has to do with millions of different variables, including toxic burden from vaccines or from your living environment. and also your own personal story, your traumas, things like that, and your immune function. Some people say that, you know, it has, your sensitivity to these frequencies has to do with the permeability of the biofield. Some people are more receptive or reactive to fluctuations in the magnetic field and the Schumann resonance than others. Yeah, and so one of the standing theories is that it has to do with the dysregulation, disruption, and permeability of the biofield, which we know is under attack as the extension of the peripheral nervous system. Not necessarily, we don't say that it's definitive that they're deliberately trying to, well, I mean, this is a whole nother, it's a tangent.
Right.
Either way, whether or not they're trying to squash our biofield so that they could control our behaviors, which seems to be the case to me, or if it's a secondary sort of oopsie daisy just so that they can have their systems running. Two schools of thought, that's a tangent anyways. But biblically, it's very interesting that it's referenced that being stressed out is going to amplify your dreams. And then Jeremiah takes it a step further, which I think is fascinating. I'll just read some of the red parts that I have posted here. From God's word, he says, I have heard what the prophets say, that prophecy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, insinuating that, you know, a lot of people talk about their dreams being prophetic when that's not necessarily the case. And God wonders, how long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophecy lies? Yeah, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart. So our heart is sinful above all things, according to scripture. Not necessarily our soul or our spirit, but the heart, the desires of the heart are sin nature. So it's looking at the scripture looks at the heart differently than we do in the modern times, the new age, things like that. The longing of the flesh, in simpler terms, which to think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. So people get real excited about telling everybody their prophecy. And God reminds us, hey, be humble. Like, that might not be from me. Scripture is very clear that you will have dreams, but they won't always be from me. So he says, what is the chaff to the wheat? How do you discern, saith the Lord? Like, how do you tell as a mortal man who has limited perception what is true and what isn't? What is the criteria you run through personally? Is what God's appealing to there. And he says, I am against the prophets that use their tongues and say, he saith. God told me, because a lot of the, people in biblical times to today say, well, God told me this. God told me that. Are you sure is what God's saying? He says, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, said the Lord, and do tell them and cause my people to err by their lies. And they might not even know their lies. They're just, being led by the deceit of their own heart to share something that they are certain is from God. That's the unpacking of Jeremiah 23 is in my estimation.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for showering me in jewels. I appreciate it. I still don't even know what that means. But yeah, this is, it all connects, right? We've been warned about this. We've been told about this. It's been foretold for many, many years. A lot of the things that we're experiencing now, nothing new under the sun. It's just a different form maybe than we've ever seen in modern times. So I'd like to get Mac, welcome back. You've been sharing some stuff in there. I'd like to get to that, and then we'll finish up with the solutions man and Mark and his wisdom.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a few things. I just did some Google searches, and I remember Sabrina, and it might not be related, but I remember her talking about wake up radio and how the W band, how the nodes get woken up. And I just wonder if, that's related to getting woken up at 3 a.m. Maybe it's a synchronization of, these technologies. I could be totally off, just something that kind of crossed my mind. It seemed like it was related. The last thing I sent seems to be the most, the last link I sent seems to be the most related to it.
Right, I'll grab that one next.
Yeah.
I hate alarms, man. My body will wake me up right before an alarm's going to go off.
Yep, same here.
Here we go.
So this just seemed like, I don't know, it just seemed related to being woke. Like we're all nodes on the network, right? And the network's always updating itself and try to conserve energy. So it's conjecture. I don't know if it's totally related. It's just something that kind of like flared up in my mind. So maybe Sabrina can verify this or just tell me that I'm an idiot. So I don't know.
No, I think this is right in line with stuff that she talks about. I mean, we've talked about it throughout this a little bit about trying to figure out what they're doing, maybe at certain times or just in the dream states and even awake states, but talking about very low power MAC VLPM protocol for wireless body area networks. Uses a secondary ultra low power wake up radio receiver that monitors the channel continuously. So all these frequencies that are out there, I don't think they do. They as in the people that are in the more know that they don't give to the profane, to the goyim, whatever you want to say. They know how this stuff affects us, but they don't tell us. Just like on that poll, though, sometimes they do, and people just don't pay attention. That picture that Charley shared, where they were admitting how the 5G could affect people and give all these things. And so many people come into these this channel and Sabrina's and talk about having tinnitus, having an inability to sleep, having all this restlessness and all these irritations. And it's right there on that tag. So here we go. This keeps the main microcontroller and high power radio in sleep mode until a targeted wake up packet arrives. These packets, these nodes on the network that are receiving information. You hear all this new age stuff and like the truth and movement, stuff like that. I get downloads and stuff like that. Maybe people do get like information downloads spiritually from a better place, but I think a lot of downloads also come from this tech and the stuff that they're putting into us, whether it's through our blood, genetics, and all the stuff that we're talking about on other things, but also into our dreams and like subconsciously, and then low frequencies so that it's not so easy to see. Drastically cutting idle listening energy consumption during overnight or low traffic monitoring periods. Why would they not be doing some of this more in the areas during their time of rest when they're not so many people awake using the electricity, so that it could be then amplified even more by the ability that they do have? So I think this is right in line with exactly some of the stuff that we should be talking about when it comes to what's happening with our dream state and our inability to get sleep or our traumas that we're experiencing while we are trying to get rest. There you go.
Do y'all remember when Topher and Chris 67 were talking about how when Topher went to Florida, after living in Costa Rica, he went with his wife to Florida, and at like some hour, I think it was in the afternoon, he started feeling like he was going to have a heart attack, and he couldn't figure out why. And his wife was pregnant, so he didn't say anything. And then the next day at the exact same time, he had the symptoms again. So yes, Mac, I think that you're absolutely onto something, that there's probably a schedule for him. He did the research and he figured out that they were doing 5G testing at that specific time every day that coincided with his heart symptoms.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's all algorithm. It's mostly AI too, unless, they really don't like you or need to specifically get into you for some reason. It's all machine learning type stuff. Like some guy like sitting in his basement remoting you. That's so 1970s, that's so old. So
Right, it's the same thing as like the heart attack gun where people would pull up in like the the unmarked van and shoot you with a heart attack gun. Man, they don't got to do that shit anymore.
no,
They could, I guess, but
like they could if they want, I think, but
they don't need to do that anymore, man.
yeah,
Exactly. And that's how I think we should think about it, the way that it was describing there about the release of packets. The whole system is set up like a computer, like a network. You got to think about it like that. Go ahead, Heather.
I was just agreeing with you. And the delivery system, it's all automated now. So it would be on a schedule, like it probably started as a schedule, but now they probably have it it would be an individualized kind of thing where they don't have to monitor it anymore. AI, unless they ran into a problem, somebody might intervene. But now it's all automated, right? So they don't even have to necessarily do that. And I think they cart out things like those guns to show us visibly something tangible so that that's how we think of it. And we stay in that thought process. Like if something like that happens to us, it's going to be because somebody did this, threw the acid in your face, whatever. And don't really think past that point to think if anything else is happening, like things that you can't see with the frequencies and stuff like that. System. I think they do that on purpose. They show us at specific times those kinds of things so that we can our mind a visual thing, like something,
that's why they're dead set on talking about MK Ultra so much. They just want people thinking about old technologies and how old technologies are, just trying to confuse people. And
at a certain point, I don't know how many years it is, but after a certain point, everything they're doing becomes disclosed, right? After 30 years or whatever, there's a certain amount of time where it's like, okay, it's been long enough. They can know about it, but they're still keeping us in that tangible thought process. Has to be something. And it's not that way anymore.
Boogada, if you will.
Right. And it keeps us in that mystical, it's magical, fantasy. We go straight, or at least myself, I go straight into, when I think about these technologies, I go straight into the movies. My mind still, I have to stop myself. Because I think that's what's in our face. That was what's tangible. So that's what our visually, like when we go into our memory banks, that's what we're looking for, is something like that.
Right.
Because it's
it's all for your safety. They're protecting you, and it's national security, and they're just fucking with you just to help you, basically, because you can't help yourself, is what it really is. I think that's how they see it. These poor, stupid animals. We really need to help them along. I mean, I think that's really where they're at with this whole thing.
Yeah, they definitely believe they're higher than us, that we are like cattle to them, like legitimately. Like we are lesser than they are.
Yeah.
They want to maintain that power. Sorry, Heather, I have to keep muting you.
Why? What's going on?
It's like screeching, and it's like very irritating. Yes.
There's like no noise in here. It's so weird. Should I leave and come back?
Sensitivity to the microphone. No, it happens all the time with your microphone.
So
but I agree with you as far as like not letting it become boogada, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to like show you something that's freaky, but it's like that's not freaky, because the real tech now at this state of the game is so much more advanced. They literally are telling us about Monroe and what they did to the men and how they started bleeding out of all their eyes. They just incapacitated them with frequency.
They're not scared at all about telling anybody what they're doing. Like I honestly wonder what they're like, where they're at. They're preparing for the next round reset, or what are they? They're not hiding anything anymore.
Right. I feel like sometimes too, like with how much is coming out about the corruption that's happening in the government, and how all of it is just fake and gay or whatever you want to call it. Everything's a lie. They never actually do anything. No one's getting arrested. No one's being prosecuted. Treason doesn't seem to exist anymore as far as a prosecutable offense, and it's happening 24/7. They're doing it in a way where I feel like at some point they're either going to keep just testing us to see how much they can get away with, and then even if it popped off in a certain area, they'll handle it and figure out the next thing. But sometimes I feel like they're trying to get us to go to that next level so they can bring in the surveillance state openly. Like, this was for your own good because people got out of control. But then the history that'll never be told is that you motherfuckers did this on purpose. It's like at J6 when they started shooting people with beanbag guns and throwing gas into the freaking crowd and getting everybody all pissed off. You guys ignited it. You guys set that shit up to do that. It's the same that they're doing all over the freaking world in different ways.
But it's the same playbook over and over and over again with them in every scenario. It's like they create a problem, they have the solution, and it's always more control. Oh, we had to do that because of this. They get us all amped up. And then they say, see, this is exactly how the narcissists work you. Just even in your everyday life, they do that's that same thing. That's why I keep calling it a playbook. They get you all amped up, and they go, "See, they're the ones out of control." When they're the ones actually amping it up and causing you to react the way that you are.
Yep, to some of us, it's a broken record talking about some of this, but we have to keep bringing it up because there's always people at different levels of learning about this stuff, because people have to understand problem, reaction, solution is exactly what is being talked about here with the Hegelian dialect. It's the same game plan in order to cut down on whatever patriotism is or whatever free range human is, like to push back against the system that is suppressing us and doing us wrong. They do it to suppress that, but then to also move the goal to the next phase of whatever this plan is that's been planned out for hundreds of years. So we keep bringing it up so people are aware of that. But now, without further ado, sorry, Mark, we're going to you. I want to bring it back to Mark, and I want to, whatever you'd like to talk about, but then also get into some of these solutions. You've been sharing some stuff in the private chat. People want some of these links to like these herbs, these things that you're talking about, things that have helped you in your journey.
Okay. So I guess I'll just say that the main thing that everybody can do probably is what they don't really want to hear. Clean up your habits, live as clean of a life as you can. Make sure you're eating organic foods, mostly fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Obviously raw when you can get it. The body actually does not like cooked food, believe it or not. You don't actually ever see a squirrel roasting a nut over a forest fire. You don't see a wolf cooking a squirrel steak the same way. It just doesn't happen. And according to Dr. Andrew Saul, it causes something called digestive leukocytosis, where your body actually produces white blood cells because it's reacting to the food as if it's allergic to it. So the main thing is just live a clean life. Besides that, if you want to have, dreams, I guess, that are more in tune and connected with reality, I would say you have to develop some sort of a practice that allows you to put aside your life, put aside your day. So I've heard, the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, when they were talking about connecting for remote viewing purposes, was talking about the idea of, packing all of your trouble into a suitcase and then just kind of, getting rid of that suitcase. Some people in real life, in order to, sometimes it's ritualistic, other times it's more of a, it's more of a counseling practice where somebody writes down all of the things that are really bothering them and then they set fire to it or they get rid of it in some other way. And I'm just, for everybody it's custom, it'll be different. Choose something that you think will allow you to let go of the things that happen in your day. Otherwise, those things will affect anything that you do get when you dream. So that's one thing. Um, Again, discernment. You always want to be as lucid as you possibly can in your dreams. Honestly, dreaming is just a state in between this life and kind of what I consider going back to our natural state, which is a state of wholeness. In the end, dreaming does serve a purpose and whatnot, but ultimately, I think when people work through all of their things, the dreaming starts to actually slow down and even stop, because you're not really going into those transitory areas. You're actually reaching that still point, you're reaching the 0 point, you're grounded, centered, whatever you want to call it. And that allows you to go back to what some people call creator or source. So dreams do serve a purpose, but they are not the ultimate thing worth achieving. The ultimate thing worth achieving is that state of wholeness. In dreams, use your discernment, go by feel. If you want to dream more, and you're a cannabis smoker, you definitely want to remove that as best as you can from your life. If you can't totally remove it, then just make sure that you don't smoke it or imbibe it in any way within a few hours of you going to bed. There are certain herbs. Somebody actually mentioned some in the chat earlier. I'm just going to pull up.
Yeah, you had like a tea that looks like it had some things in it.
Yeah, so I do have the link for the tea. I've actually tried it and had limited success. There's actually a company called the Algonquin Tea Company, and I'll paste the link right now into the chats. And it only actually contains one ingredient. It's an herb called sweet gale. It's a shrub that grows in wet areas. And yeah, I've had some interesting effects with altering my state of consciousness just with that. Another one that seems
real quick, sweet gale.
Yeah, and gale is spelled Gale.
Do you take that before you go to sleep, or is that something you take during the day, or?
Well, that would be something that I would take, within an hour or two before bedtime.
Okay. And when he's talking about the cannabis stuff, I see, from my understanding, you're saying if people want to be able to dream more, because I know some people use it to go to sleep. But if you're not dreaming and you want to dream more, then he's thinking about removing that cannabis before you go to bed. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's perfect. Yep.
All right, go ahead. Sweet gale. Okay, I've never heard of that one, I don't think.
So some of the other ones that are listed, and I'll have to pull it up again. Find it.
And you said about eating clean and not cooking. Do you eat raw meat?
No, actually, I've removed meat more or less from my diet. I find actually that turns out to be more or less a bad habit. If you look at what's called the terrain model of living, what you end up finding out is there's certain things that you also compare with what you see in nature, right? So, for instance, dairy. You don't really see any animal, once it's weaned from its mother, you don't really see it going back to milk again, nor do you see it consuming the milk of another creature. You just don't see that. So, dairy is not really something I think we're supposed to be consuming. And this is really based on both my personal experience with my own chronic digestive health issues, which I've mostly cured. Like, I don't have the same issues at all anymore. The other is just from the massive amounts of research that I've done. And in terms of, say, eating meat, it seems like when you look at the creatures that seem to be, especially the obligate carnivores, meaning that is all that they eat, when you compare our different body parts to the body parts of animals that are, like, say, obligate carnivores, or do consistently put meat in their diet, even if, they're considered omnivores. In the end, when you look at that, like things like our teeth, the length of our digestive tract, things like that, they just don't match up. Even the quality of our stomach acids are apparently much different. So when you compare, and there is a diagram, I'm not sure, I didn't know we were
Right.
exactly.
I
gonna
think a
get
lot of
into
people
this.
would also have like different, it's like up to each individual, and maybe some of that would play into genetics and blood type. But you'll see like up in places that are very cold, the Eskimos, they basically live off of meat because there ain't nothing growing there that's vegetation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I also, again, this is based on experience and also a lot of research. It seems that we don't really fully know exactly what sustains us, and there are multiple things that can sustain us. And there are even people that they call themselves breatharians or something like that, and they say
Yeah.
they don't require any kind of eating at all. And I do believe them. When it comes down to it, there are certain things. In the end, our food gives us a certain level of satisfaction, and some people can relate to the idea of where um, when you're really enjoying yourself and you're really in the moment, you don't feel hungry, you don't feel tired, you actually feel energized. So in the end, the satisfaction that we get from food gives us kind of that little bit of like a relief of some sort. It gives us that, we settle, we get grounded and centered because we've had something that we enjoy. I honestly believe that if we can train ourselves to mimic that type of feeling, that we will require very little to no sustenance whatsoever.
Right. There's a lot of talk about fasting and how important it is. I've gone over that. Can't get myself quite to do it. As far as like for a long period of time and whatnot. I know there's ways that you can ease into it or cut certain things out. I think cutting down on inflammation in the body is an obvious one because inflammation is going to cause a lot of issues that are going to mess up your endocrine system. They're going to mess up your bodily functions, your hormones, and all kinds of stuff. So cutting those out. But I love meat. Moses, right? Yeah.
I'm still eating it. So but in my opinion, I know better. And to me, it's just a habit that I've gotten used to. And especially when you grow up in a household where that is the typical way of things, especially for dinners. Like I'm still also, I know that I shouldn't be cooking my food, but at dinner time, that is what I kind of grew up with. So that's still kind of, still my routine at this point. But everybody's on their journey at the different levels. I would say if you push yourself to do too much at once, you are actually going to backslide, and you may backslide hard. So it's better to do things in stages and, say, I can give up this now, and, later on I'll give up something else. And eventually, this journey for me has been actually the better part of 20 years. I gave the medical community, a very long time to try and help me with my chronic issues. And when I realized that every single time I went back to them, my life actually got worse, my health got worse, that's when, my research really kicked into overdrive on the medical stuff. And, my thing is, don't worry about herbs, don't worry about any of the things that are extra above and beyond your fundamental, foundational necessities of life. If you can't start there, if you can't work at that stuff, you really shouldn't be dabbling too much in anything else. I think anything like herbs and whatnot, that's kind of more an advanced thing. And in some ways, it's people trying to cut corners. You can use them as aids, but if you lean on any of that stuff, it's a crutch.
Right. We should be able to get our medicine from the food, and the food be our medicine, right?
Yeah. And another thing, do your research on how our body actually works. So a lot of people are taking supplements and whatnot. And what they don't really think about is, number one, there are different types of, say, calcium, right? So because there are different types, well, guess which one that the company is going to choose to sell you, right? They're looking for profit. So, and they can technically say that it's calcium they're giving you, but is it the most bioavailable calcium, say, for your body? Do you even need to necessarily take it, right? These are questions people should be asking. And I don't really think anything should ever be done in pill form at all. It should be in its natural state. And then also learn about, like I said, how the body interacts with nutrients, some of the things people are taking, you're not actually supposed to take them at all. Your body it has the ability to produce some of these things. So if you're giving it to your body, you're kind of saying to your body, well, I'm doing the work for you, so you don't have to do it. Now the body is going to say, okay, well, I guess I have to do this. I can do this less now. So now your body's not doing the work that it should. So, for instance, vitamin D, people are taking vitamin D. I think from the sounds of it, that is one of the most useless things anybody can do. And your body actually produces its own vitamin D. You just need like a healthy oil and sunlight. And, your body, there's certain components for certain nutrients that we require. You're not supposed to actually be taking the nutrients. You're supposed to be taking the precursors so that your body can create those nutrients. So things
with all the stuff that they're putting into the water and the stuff that's in the air, smart dust, that's causing the sun to not be what it was. They're hitting every vector, so there's always things to be taken into consideration with these conversations. But I tend to agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, and something that isn't like an herb, but something that can help with your mind. Lion's mane mushrooms. Somebody actually mentioned that in the chat much earlier in the Streama. Yeah, I would just say make sure you're getting enough, especially of the nutrients that your brain seems to require. Vitamin B12, magnesium. I believe selenium is another one that's supposed to be a key nutrient for the brain. So, do your research on the brain, see what nutrients it requires, and just make sure that you're fulfilling that requirement.
Yeah, and you can get stuff like selenium. I think it's Brazilian nuts.
Yeah, you eat. Yeah, all you have to do is eat 2 of those, and you apparently get recommended daily allowance. Yeah.
Yeah, that came from Mama. Mama knows a lot of things about this discussion. And then remember, everybody's different, and so some things work for you. But when we have these discussions, it's great because I always see things lighting up in the chat as well with people that are bone broth, the especial. That can be very, very good, especially we've had it with the kittens and stuff like that with some of the issues that they've had with the pets. Bone broth can be very good, though, in a simpler one. Actual bone broth, make your own. But yes, I like some of these discussions. So what about practices? Like do you have any I don't know, like some body movement things or some meditation things? Meditation gets a little weird for me because it depends on what people are, how their intention is. But do you have anything before you go to bed to loosen up, to stretch, to do anything to prepare yourself when you go to sleep?
Well, lots of physical activity during the day does seem to help you sort of just kind of ground when you get to bed. You're just kind of ready, I guess would be a good word to use for that. But yeah, I gave the suggestion earlier to anything that will loosen you up, make you do something silly. If you're somebody that's more serious, just you have to custom tailor it to who you are as an individual. So I can't exactly give specific things. I can give you ideas and then just, run with that. So anything that's going to let you let go of the day you've had, or even just let go of the life that you're living, you have to be able to let go. I don't remember whether it was prior to the Streama or right at the beginning, but I also mentioned, relaxation of the physical body. So you lay down and you just do everything you can to kind of allow all your muscles to relax. And then after you do that, you do another relaxation, but you start at each body part. So you start at your toes and you make sure that they feel as relaxed as you can possibly get them. Then your feet.
Do you do a breathing exercise while you're doing this, or do you think thought? Because I've done this, and it's just do you try not to use necessarily thought in words, or do you focus breath? Do you what do you do?
So there are breaths that are given for relaxation and whatnot. One of them is called the heart breath. I think it's breathing in for 7 seconds, holding it for 7 or 8 seconds, and then letting it out for 7 or 8 seconds. So you can work with that. Ultimately, I don't think it matters as much about the count for seconds. It's think about how you feel when you sigh, right? When you actually have a genuine relaxation due to a sigh, you can just, that feeling that you get when that happens, that's more or less what you're trying to reproduce. And if you can reproduce that, then yeah, you'll have better quality sleep. You'll feel more rested. And when you do go to sleep, you will be more connected to reality and therefore be more likely to have a genuine experience versus, say, a controlled experience. Once you're actually dreaming, again, my suggestion is go by feel, go by discernment. Just do your best. You know, everybody makes mistakes. You're going to get things wrong. It's just the way it is. If other beings, you know, lucidity is a huge thing. I'm not usually one to test people, but if you're lucid enough to test any beings that are in your dreams, that might be a good idea as well.
What do you mean test? Do you mean we're going to meet up in the Astral?
If you're lucid enough, you can ask them questions or or do things around them and see how they react, basically.
Gotcha. I thought you were saying we're going to meet up like in one of these planes and like Neo and Morpheus like maybe fight it out.
Well, that would be really cool. I've most of my life I've kind of been solo. So everything that I've kind of learned is on my own, you know, to be able to actually have somebody that you could work with to kind of test and experiment what works and what doesn't, that would, you know, that would be very advantageous.
See, wouldn't it be cool if we could get to the level? And I think that this was possible at times, and maybe some people can actually do it. I have no idea what Buddhist monks are actually doing up in those mountains. But if we could actually like reach that state where like we hung out in our sleep state and like kicked it a little bit and continued these conversations and taught each other and just enjoyed ourselves, wouldn't that be freaking cool?
That would be
incredible.
incredible.
They're going to sell you that.
What's that?
I feel like they're going to sell you that. The ability
Don't ruin it, Moses. Don't you dare ruin my dream.
Stuff.
No, but I think you're onto it. Go ahead. I think you're onto something.
No, so Mark, you were saying something. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in because I'm like, I think they're gonna do that. But
well,
look,
what
like
you guys
you can have the VR experiences where people are in different locations and you put on the VR headset and say like a sporting event is the one that I've had it explained the most, where and they make lots of money off that, of course. So you pay top dollar to put on VR, and your friend that's in a different state or a different part of the world, you're there, and when you look over, you see them and you're hanging out. The same kind of technology can be used in the dream state. I think eventually you'll put on some freaking little nodes or something like that at your temples or some crap like that when you go to sleep, and you'll be hanging out with people synthetically, if you will. You'll be in you'll be in the fucking Matrix.
Yeah. You're muted there, Heather.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it off, but no, that's exactly how I see it too. It's sort of like similar to the Matrix. It reminds me of a lot of different movies, actually, that they show us in the movies. Even Total Recall, where you can go in and you sit in the chair and you put all the thing on, and it's like you go on vacation, but you're just sitting there for a couple of hours. You know, you can have all these experiences.
Right. Yeah, the natural one would be great, and I think that's what they're trying to disrupt us from being able to do. Sorry, Mark, didn't want to cut you off there, but yeah, Moses jumped in.
Oh, no worries at all. Dream incubation is definitely a real thing. You know, I've done quite a bit of research on that over time. The other thing is I have had dreams that I would consider some form of interference or distraction or the attempt to cause some level of trauma. I've actually at times, and I don't know exactly which scenario it is, because I think there's so many different types of dreams that you can have. And, you know, one of the things I asked you before is how can you be sure that what you experienced wasn't a past lifetime, or you weren't seeing through somebody else's eyes, you know, or something like that. In one instance, at least, actually there's many instances, I think, but one particular instance I'm thinking of, I ended up in some sort of an underground military base, and whoever or whatever I was seeing through at the time was partially drugged, so I could even feel groggy. And this doctor led me into a room for some sort of testing or examination, and we just got into the room, and we hear this really loud scream, and I believe it was a female. And we were both startled by it. He, obviously being, you know, doing a job, he rushes off to see what's going on. Me, as a very empathetic soul, that really concerned me, which also woke me up a little bit more from my drug state. He figured that I wasn't, you know, worth worrying about in the state that I was in, so the door wasn't even locked. So, you know, again, me just being groggy and concerned for whoever I heard screaming, I go out the door. And, you know, I'm just looking at this hallway in what I would call an underground military base. And this is actually one of my favorite ones of that are related to, you know, government type stuff, because in this particular one, when the male doctor came back and saw me outside of the room, he wasn't very happy. And of course, I was still concerned. So I asked him, is everything all right? Well, he got this very nasty look on his face and just told me to shut the fuck up. And I don't like bullies. I despise them in a way I can't describe. And that just woke me up fully, and I just popped him one right in the nose. I really hope that was real, and I really hope he felt it.
I hear you on that, man. Damn. I haven't had a dream down in a deep underground military base, but they're definitely they got those all over the place. I do believe. I think it's legit. It's just hard to discern because they got assholes like Gene Decode out there making up bullshit. But I think that's completely what's going on. A lot of black money, if you will, or black money, dark money projects have been used to fund those kinds of things. It's like their safety net if they have to go underground. Bunkers is just a term for something that I think most people have a smaller concept than what is going on down in these underground cities that are like, they got highways, they got everything down there. But that's for a whole nother show, if you will. But dang, bro, I hope he felt it too. I hate that shit.
Yeah, I saw Charley's comments about how TV shows and movies can affect, and yes, that is a factor, and I always do take those into account. That was actually going to be part of my suggestions for once people are actually in the dreams. They have no problems necessarily dreaming, but it's remembering. That's the issue. What I like to do is when I first wake up, if you just kind of go right into your day, of course, you're switching gears. You're not going to remember. So my advice there is to, when you first wake up, to just stay laying there. Do a review, if you can, of what you just experienced. And after that, when you're lucid enough and back into this reality, so to speak, then if you feel that writing is your thing, then write it all down. And also include in that writing anything that you think might have affected your dream that you experienced, say, from the night before. It doesn't necessarily have to be a movie or TV show. It could be an experience that you had as you went about your day. It's very important, just like Crystal's saying there. It really is important. And if you find that writing is very difficult for you, get yourself a recording device. Somehow catalog your experiences. That's one of the best things you can do, because eventually, even if you did remember everything, all of us, even our in this life experiences, we can inevitably forget if enough time goes by. It is possible. Just always write it down.
And the other option too is, to avoid things that are designed and intended to influence your psyche and your dream state.
Even from the technological.
Right. From the technological standpoint, but also from entertainment the entertainment industry standpoint. Those are called programs for a reason, television programs, because no matter what we do, we have to have a degree of humility and understanding that those are very exquisitely designed to implant programs in our psyches. So a degree of discernment with what we ingest, I just am saying, is also valuable.
There's so much that can be done to induce a different state of consciousness in somebody. And I actually shared in the stream chat here, or the panel chat. It's from Dr. Robert Monroe. Some people have heard that name before. And it's Method of and Apparatus for Inducing Desired States of Consciousness. And my research shows that originally it was kind of a trial and error thing when they this stuff. So think about, Jose Delgado, where they're just hammering the brain with different electromagnetic fields, and they try to find out what that'll do. And then they moved a little bit ahead of things, and they found out that if they just read the EEG from a person's brain, then they can actually take that exact same reading and feed it back into the brain, and the individual it will experience that same thing again. So it made it so much easier. So you can basically, what they can do is take a bunch of EEG readings, not just one. There are multiple sensors, and they take every single reading that they have, and then that you can ask the person, okay, what did you experience? Okay, well, I was seeing a puppy running through a field. Now you can take all those same signals, and you can beam it back into the individual, possibly even other individuals, even though our brains are slightly different, and they'll end up experiencing the same darn thing. So it's
Similar
really
to
not that hard. Go ahead.
Like with the GATE program, a lot of the experimentation that they would do in there, because the windows were always all blacked out too, for bouncing signal around more effectively to do the sorts of experiments, arguably, that you're discussing right there, Mark. But my point was just that for me, discernment equals avoiding things that are deliberately intended, industries that are deliberately intended to program our psyches. Mm-hmm. And that is the nature of the entertainment industry as a whole, its roots, the way it's run, exactly where it ties back into intelligence agencies. It is designed to alter our perception of reality. So my point is just, we must be careful what we ingest by putting in our bodies, of course, that will affect our dream states, but also what are we consuming from an industry that has been engineered to engineer our perception.
Yep. No, I hear you 100%.
We're powerful beyond measure when we're with God, of course, but there needs to be, I believe, a degree of humility, because there's a lot of consumption happening, especially now, because we've been engineered since, our Gen X hood to self-soothe and to seek answers through film and television, through the Matrix, through the myriad of sci-fi series to explain the universe's great mysteries to us. That's where we seek our wisdom. Largely, we've been programmed to since we were children. We have a deep reverence for it. So divorcing ourselves from that and recognizing that maybe that's not the wellspring of eternal knowledge. Maybe that's influencing my perception in a negative way. And we have all the proof we need to show us that that is exactly what the industry is designed to do. And the devices, the screens. Mm-hmm. We know that the screens affect our brainwaves as well.
Yeah, you want to shut off all your tech. One thing I even do, I don't just shut off all of my tech at night. I have a light that is, basically just above my bed. And I know that that light has an electrical wire attached to it, and that wire runs right down and across the wall right where my head is at night. So I actually go into my breaker box and I shut off that circuit entirely. Now, in terms of the discernment of what you experience when you dream, that's part of the whole recording things down, but you also take the next step and you vet the information if you can with other sources. So one of the neatest ones I ever had, and I only remember the end of the dream, I'm holding this golden figurine, and I just, for some reason, you just know stuff. You don't actually have to be told stuff in the dream. And I knew that what I was holding was related to Egypt. And the last word that I heard before I got up was Cheops. And I had absolutely no idea what that meant or how to spell it. So when I got up in the morning, I actually typed that in. And I typed it in phonetically, meaning I spelt it key, K-E-Y, and then ops, O-P-S. And even though I got the spelling wrong, I just shared a link with you there, Booma, in the panel chat.
All right, I'm going to share this one. I got to get, for me personally, I got to go give some medicine to a kitty here in a moment. Go ahead.
So yeah, I had a dream that I knew was related to Egypt, and I hear the word Cheops. I had never heard that word ever. And I looked it up, and yes, I spelled it wrong, but I guess a lot of people spelled it wrong, so it came up right away. And indeed, the word Cheops is related to Egypt. So in some of these cases, you can confirm. It actually gives me chills when I think about it. Other times, you will not even have a chance to confirm, okay? And some of the times, that's actually going to make you very profoundly depressed, because you will see things that you can do nothing about. So the tsunami that hit Japan, I dreamed about that. I didn't know when it was going to happen. The only thing I knew for sure is that I was on the northern point of the island, just because of me observing the wave hit and the direction it was coming from. I could tell that I was on the north point of the island, and I was looking inward to the rest of the island. Another time I dreamed about a woman. I got her name. That's all I got. Her name was Beverly, and she was raped at a house party in the basement of the home. So I get to, live with the knowledge that I got to see this stuff probably before it happened, but I didn't get a street address. I didn't get anything. So there's nothing you have to accept those sorts of things too. Other times, I saw potentially my mother die. One time she was at work. I saw her at work, and she had something fall off of a high shelf and hit her on the head. Well, I've already experienced enough to know that I'm paying attention to my dreams. So I got up from my bed, I called her work, and I forced them to pull her away from her workstation. Now, nothing happened. Did I stop it? I have no idea. So you have to kind of be willing to accept that you're not actually going to know the answer or whether you did the right thing or not. You just do the best you can. And Charlie's thing about what's real, again, you can ask that about the dream life. You can ask that about this life. At this point, we all know that there's no way to really tell. Like, we don't even know if we're actually having this conversation right now. So, you do the best that you can. That's all you can do. And follow up with the information. Anything you get in a dream, always follow up with it if you can. Take the time, anything you got, and research it. You might just find out that, like what I did, I hear the word Cheops. It's like the only thing I remember from the dream, other than the fact it was related to Egypt. And I find out that, yeah, it is. So, at least some of that stuff is legit. Like, do I believe that I've been messed with before? Heck yeah. And at one point, once I started doing the Biofield practice with Solana, I know of many people that are actually being affected and attacked all the time. And that includes a woman who might be on one of Booma's streamers in the future. Her name is Tiffany Fontenot. And her channel on YouTube is called Our Still Small Voice. And she's also on Rumble as well. and she's constantly posting on Facebook about different technologies that she's experiencing being used against her. So once I got into the Biofield practice a little more and started feeling a little bit stronger with my capabilities, I actually started to try to hunt these bastards down using my dreams. And I won't really give the details, but what I will say is I was successful 2 different times in being in the right place. I did not get enough information to really do much about it. And after those 2 successes in a short period of time, I found out that I could no longer dream properly for a while, nor could I pylo-erect. Something had been done, and for between 30 and 60 days, I could not my nervous system to pylo-erect on command, and that's something that I've always been able to do as a kid. So be very careful. Maybe I got a little ahead of myself with trying to do that. I think there's probably some skills I still have to learn yet before I'm going to go back to doing something like that.
So you're saying as a result of you experimenting with this, that's when you got like the suppression? Because I've had erection suppression, hard to say, before, but it didn't last that. It was about 4 hours. And it was like all of a sudden a switch got flipped off. Like it was like something got switched on, and it was just almost like felt like kind of pressure. And I couldn't, no matter what and this is newer to me to be able to pilot. I mean, I always have, but I didn't know what it was. It was only in certain situations. But I'm able to do it for the most part. Now, sometimes I can't, or usually it's like a mindset for me. But I was trying. There's no reason why I shouldn't have been able to do it. It was different. And then it was like literally, it just instantly stopped. And the second that I felt it like turn off, I started piloing instantly.
Yeah, I've actually during Biofield practice with Solana, and she actually mentioned it at one point before. I didn't mention it to anybody when I first experienced it. She mentioned it during the practice, but what I was actually experiencing is, so during the practice, you're supposed to have your right hand down, left hand up, and you're rotating energy between you and the other people that are in your group. And you're supposed to do it counterclockwise. And everything was going perfectly fine for the first couple minutes. And then after that, what I experienced was a feeling of, first, it felt harder for me to spin in a counterclockwise direction. And then not long after that, I could actually feel the energy going the opposite direction. So it was like whatever we were doing, something else was trying to like basically counteract the energy that we were moving amongst us. Now I don't know what that was, but Solana also noticed it. This stuff is all real, and it's gotten so easy for them, I think, over the years. Like you take a snapshot of something, that somebody's state of being, and you take that snapshot and you send it back at them or somebody else, and they experience the same thing. To me, that's about as easy as it gets. At that point, you can make somebody sad, you can make somebody happy, you can make them horny, you can make them poop their pants, pee their pants. There's just no limit, basically. You take a reading off the body, and you know what that reading is related to. And then when you want to recall that, you just send it back and it happens again. And the person has zero control over it. Like, part of this is about energy harvesting, and the rest of it is, the removal of free will for energy harvesting purposes. That's the way I see it anyway.
Conditioning our body to fire that way, if you will. Like on its own, eventually it'll just, like, I could kind of see that, because it's similar to like you setting an alarm for, I don't know, 6 weeks, and after a while you don't have to set that alarm anymore. It just kind of naps your body. It will go on that cycle. Are we losing people?
Yeah, it's getting late. I just gave Chip his meds, so that was taken care of. But Charley had to dip. I don't want to cut anybody off though. If everybody wants to share a little bit more, I think it looks like Mac's gone. He has to get up early. Where are we at in this though? I think we will do another one on this.
I think we're in a good. That's my opinion.
Maybe we should stay on until Moses falls asleep and then monitor him.
Thank you so much about your dream.
Yes, and then we'll like wait, and then we'll wake him up and be like, "What were you dreaming about, bro?"
Yeah,
and they'll be like, "Naked dreams, bro."
Just my night terrors, man. Just dream about being naked in high school.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's a real thing, man. You've never had those.
Never.
Man, dude.
I've never
For the record.
I was naked in a dream. Well, like I can't really say that. But in an embarrassed, like in public, where it was like embarrassing situation. Ever.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like it was a lucid dream where I'm like taking off my clothes like an exhibitionist or whatever, a nudist. It was just like you're all of a sudden wake up, you're in a dream, and you're like hiding behind bushes and stuff like at school, like, oh shit, somebody's gonna see me. It's like, what the heck? That's weird, dude. I thought that was just a common thing. I don't know. Maybe it is just me. Judge me all you want.
I doubt it. Nobody else on this panel.
Maybe
Naked and Unafraid podcasting coming soon. Booma and Biscuits, Naked and Unafraid, bow ties and beards and bow ties, whatever we want to do. I can't quite get them to do it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll set a little deal up. If 50 people sign up for GGCO, then he has to do it. Something like that.
Oh, it's like, you better be careful if you don't really want to do it.
Look, I'm still going to be cut off right here. I'm not crazy. I'm not that crazy. I'm not going to go on like some show like the Naked Afraid thing where they just have that little satchel covering their genitals and stuff.
Well, and it should be called partially naked and sort of unafraid.
Hey, we might be legit naked. You just ain't going to see everything because, I mean, that would just get us ripped right off the air. I mean, come on now. Come on now. We ain't crazy like Moses. Moses, like, I don't dream like that because I do that in real life. I just go out in public and I'm naked. I'm like, what up? What? Do something. All right. It's getting a little late. Mark, awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited. We'll have you on again. And I mean, whoever wants to jump on these panels and share some more. But this has been great. I think people got some solutions, some good discussion. I think people can relate to a lot of this. People were sharing in the chat. Like it's been said before, you got to join the communities. You got to get involved a little bit so we know who you are a little bit. And Telegram's the easiest way to do that. So if you get in there, Heather's kind of like organizing a lot of this stuff. So again, thank you, Heather. Once we get to know you a little bit, and then we can bring you on. But these panels are like really filling up fast now. It's really cool to see everybody. It was really hard to get people to join and like feel comfortable, and I get it. It was tough for me to do this in the beginning too. But I prefer this as opposed to just throwing the link out to random because that got ridiculous at times. A little entertaining at times too, but I mean, I got a little bit ridiculous. So, and then we didn't have that. What was that guy's name? Bob Hope that was throwing money and then also bashing. No more Bob Hope. That's interesting. If I'm naked in public, it's the public's problem, not mine. Exactly. I think Biscuits and Moses. That's their motto. That's what they live by. So, anyways, anybody else want to say anything before we get out of here?
Just that it was a real pleasure talking with everybody, hearing their experiences, and I especially appreciated Hillbilly Heart's experiences because a lot of mine aren't as positive as hers. So that was very nice to hear.
Right.
Yeah, it was. So it was a pleasure, man. It was a pleasure being here, learning a lot, getting, information from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different cultures. It's great. Thank you, Heather and Dorian, for creating the safe space. And as always, to many more, Yeah, it's amazing.
It's been awesome having you all on. Diane.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on, and this is just, I learn so much every time we do these streamers and every time you do your shows, and I think just love everybody here, and thank you so much for having me. It's been good. Learned a lot.
Yeah, I love it. And Mark was saying, that we need to be able to kind of dump our traumas and stuff like that, or get rid of them. I some of that, I guess, is the idea of prayer too, giving it to God. But I hope that people can come on these and actually share what they're not able to talk about, even sometimes with your spouse, with the people that you're around, your social circles. If you can't talk about it there, and if you can come here and be able to speak it freely, you can get a lot off your chest and finally feel like you're speaking with people that get you. I found that, even though I never really felt comfortable in the AAs and all that kind of stuff, I at least felt like I was around people that understood me, because not a lot of people understand the full breadth of not being in control of your addiction and being out of control and behaving in ways that is not really yourself. When it comes to this kind of information, I think everybody can relate to it in their own way. Yeah. And if you can't find a space to be able to come and share it freely, then you're holding in stuff that is going to mess up your sleep cycle, your wake cycle, your trauma experience, your pain tolerance, and your health. And we want health. We want to be as healthy as possible in this world that's constantly bombarding us with all kinds of crap. And I felt like I did better not cussing so much in this one. I'm trying better, guys. I'm going to better myself a little bit, I'm the naughty ninja, and it's going to come out, and I speak my mind, but I gotta, I got some things to work on. So I'm going to do that too. I'm detoxing a little bit from so many F-bombs, because you'll find out the next show, the Biscuits and I do, we're going to have a little fun with that one, because when I actually tallied up some of the F-bombs, oh dear Lord, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to guess how many times I said some bad words in that last one with Biscuits. I don't know why I do it sometimes. I have an idea, because, man, I was doing PayPal, I was dealing with all kinds of stuff. Anyways, it is what it is, but I appreciate you all, and I want you guys to have a safe place to come be able to talk. And I'm gonna I keep pushing that. Thank you so much, Annie D. I still don't know what the jewels are. I'm assuming it's a little bit of donation of some sort, but it's fun. Yes, frack that. The flock, go flock yourself. Flocking, flock. So the algorithm hears that, it'll hear something other than the F-bomb. But Heather, go ahead, take it away. Since you were the star of the premiere to this and the music video that is taking over the internet and is a new sensation all over the world, go ahead.
Right. No, that was fire, though. That was an awesome job. This conversation was amazing, and I thank you all for participating. Everybody in the chat too. You all been just great, and I agree with you. These types of conversations, every single one of us sleep and dream and that kind of thing. So this is great, and I always learn a lot too, and it makes me feel good, because I always feel like I could just be myself, and like you're saying, I feel like I'm understood for the most part. Even if you don't necessarily understand me, you still make me feel welcome and try. It's okay. Just go ahead and do you, and it's a great feeling. So with the dream panel, it looks like there's a lot of people that want to further the discussion. So if that is something that you're interested in continuing, you can, find me on Telegram. We can discuss it. If you're new to the community, though, you probably want to come in and hang for a little bit. Let us know. And it may take a little while to get you on a panel, because we are, like Dorian was saying, we're filling up really fast, and we had several people on call to the point where I had to cut people off, just say sorry.
It's crazy, right? It's so hard to get people to join in the beginning.
Well, the very first Booma stream I came on was 15, I think, and you were having a hard time at that time getting people to come on, and I was even hesitant.
That's why I was throwing the link out there, just bringing on randoms and finding out what would happen, and I was daring anybody that didn't like me to come on and say it to my face, which didn't happen that often. There are some gems though. When that lady came on and called me a tranny or a transgender or whatever, that was fucking great. Then I threw her ass off and told her to come back with diagrams next time, and then I didn't see her again. It's kind of disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing my picture by the way they do that stupid jaw shit and all that kind of stuff. I know some of that's legit, don't get me wrong, but some people manipulate that triangle and all that crap. But that was interesting.
Yeah, we talked about that. Like, fans. That joke's
we've had some fun times on these Booma streamers that are now Booma community streamers because the community is getting involved. I'm glad that I could show that I'm just a goofy normal guy. Like normal. I don't know what normal is, but like I'm a silly guy, but I'm willing to host a space for anybody that's serious about wanting to be part of a community and not just hijack it or not just like use it for their own personal gain. And they just have a story to tell, or they have a space, they want a space, or they've been searching for a space where they can just feel like themselves. And I hope that's what this is. And
absolutely, that's exactly what this is.
And now we're getting some younger people to join, and Moses talking about, trying to help. And we had Lee on, some younger folk, and that's been harder for us to reach them because they are being tempted like never before. So don't get me wrong. If I was Moses' age or younger or whatever, it would be so hard not to be excited about some of this stuff, because when I was playing Nintendo and stuff, I was like, oh man, dude, in the future, it's going to be like, they're going to look so realistic. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference between like a video game player in real life and movies. It's going to you're going to play a movie. And now I'm here and we're there. And I'm like, oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Now I know what they're really doing. Oh, shit. Oh, flop. We got to do something about this, right? So that's the plan. And we're going to do something about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to try to create a community where people feel welcome and feel like they're getting a lot from these conversations. Mark is in the Telegram at times, and a lot of these people are, and we can have that conversation that continues outside of even the shows, and then come into the community there and continue this conversation so that we can help each other and be there for one another, especially in times of need, which pop up all the freaking time. So anyways, with that all being said, thank you all for being here, and everybody that joined the panel today, everybody that was in the live chat, everybody that catch us on replay. And if you caught this on replay and you made it all the way to the end, God bless you. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. Know the chapters are being put down below too, so you can find certain spots that you missed or that might be of more interest to you. I'm doing my best to try to make this like as best of experience as possible. You'll find that mostly like on YouTube, it's sectioned out. But then even when I put it down below Rumble, if you click like the time when it says like a little blurb about what was going on at that time, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to hear about Mark talking about this, and something like that, and you click on that time, it'll go right there. So you can watch that and get tuned in. So anyways, God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Look forward to catching you on the next one. Peace.